And Attorney Tom.
Here.
Thank you so much. All right.
I want to say a few things. So, I want to mention and noted that in March was our first meeting in which we did have the new system which we acquired. I was here before, and in the process of connecting it, staff did a very tremendous and great job working with OTEC to connect it, set it up for us, and the meeting minutes look amazing to me. So, great job, to the staff.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
your diligence in working with OTEC to make this happen. Tina, I did have one question. Did you have any further feedback as far as the clarity with using the new system? Everything seems pretty good on your side?
Everything seems pretty good. However, when you shuffle your papers, because the mics are sensitive and they're right there on the table, that
It does
does,
cause
yeah,
distress.
yes.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may, we'll continue to work with OTEC to see if we can hang the speakers on rather than maybe that will not pick up so much shuffling on paper.
Okay, all right. But definitely it is a huge improvement from our little device to, triangulating with the other means that's been recorded. So I appreciate that. And then just to confirm, so some of these inaudibles that are here, right, that either background noise, et cetera,
Yes.
and you kind of gone back just to ensure that we captured it all.
Yes, and then I've also had some of the staff listen also to see if they're able to make out what the inaudible is.
It's definitely a lot less these days. So thank you. All right. Any questions
But about
to address? Okay. Commissioner Berdalio, any questions on the minutes?
No,
Okay,
thank you.
Commissioner Burr?
Sino
Any
naman
questions?
question po no i-install i-permanent na position ni Board Actors Commission or DC na device.
In regards to the minutes,
The status on, for example, the item for the permanent hire, can we get an update or?
oh yeah, so we will have that in the number 4. Yeah,
Okay.
on the hires and updates on that, on the strategic
Okay,
plan.
got it.
Yes.
Is that the
Other-
as I was na zone, the Lawson students are ready, sino na device by install.
the current statuses.
Yeah.
We can address those in the future comments for kind of getting some updates or where we stand with those.
Yes, it's must.
So no questions regarding the minutes? Okay.
Gaza.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, so commissioners, we'd like to take action to approve the minutes.
Can I make a motion to approve the March 17, 2022 regular minutes?
Can you get a second?
Second demo.
Second by Commissioner Santos. Any objections?
None.
None. Motion passes to approve the March 17, 2022 regular meeting minutes. Okay, thank you, commissioners. Okay, next item on our agenda is the CHamoru strategic plan. Some of the progress that has been made or any updates that need to be made, kind of given any delays that may have occurred. So I believe Joey will kind of take us through that. Mr. Cruz, if you can join us in the room. And so, commissioners, I wanted to spend some time on this. We officially approved it in the February meeting, right? We did our meeting in January. It was presented in October. And I think it's time for us, right, for already in the fiscal year, right? We kind of push through, and I want to make sure that we understand where exactly we are with some of these milestones or targets or goals that we put in place. And not only for us from the commission's perspective, but also the staff and some of the things that we committed to help support, right, and further some of the movement or action that's needed. So Ms. Cruz, please join us and walk us through the top three items in our strategic plan. And Ms. Cruz, again, just to make sure we have it documented, please state your name.
Good afternoon, Chair, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Attorney Pop. Council. Today we present to you the discussion on CLTC strategic plan progress. Just to give everybody a reminder, the strategic plan was approved, I believe, February or March of this year. So the deadlines have been pushed back, but we have not edited the strategic plan yet. CLTC strategic plan is focused on 3 strategic goals. The first one should be improving our way of conducting business, improving stewardship, and create clean, safe, and thriving neighborhoods. Sorry, my copy large, just want to just getting back. For strategic goal 1, improving our way of conducting business, we have a couple of strategic objectives to address achieving the goal of improving our way of conducting business. Strategic objective 1, reorganize processes. Under that objective, we identified strategies such as identifying critical positions, update current processes, update current forms, and standardizing digitized forms. In regards to those strategies that I just mentioned, we've completed identifying critical positions that we need at a bare minimum based on the 1999 management audit. Those positions that have been that we have identified are in the recruitment process. I believe all applications that have been submitted are under the evaluation period. And after that, there's a 10-day appeal period. We hope that that process will be completed in the next month.
Can you remind us the total number of open positions that we put out there?
Departmental, I believe there were 6 or 7, and new positions, there was a total of 6.
So a total of 12,
12 to 13.
so 13 spots.
But 6 or 7 is departmental, so really we're only adding 6 additional bodies.
And should that be down in our financial?
Budget request. The next strategy, updating current processes.
Oh, sorry, Greg. Before you move on, so in regards to the process, the recruitment process, right? So so we've not hired any, or even with the departmental.
Not yet.
Okay.
And that's on the interviews
For-
for TC.
But I believe out of 8 or 9 names that we received thus far, 6 or 7 have declined the interview.
Okay.
So we're still going through the interview process. As far as all the other positions, we haven't received listing yet.
Okay, so in the process, right, you said we're in the recruitment process and then there's the appeals. That's all within DOA. Okay. And then there's no other steps in the process that could continue to hold this up per se.
Just as long as, what happens is after DOA has done everything they're supposed to, we get a verification listing. If in the event that we do receive 5 and 1 declines or 2, we normally ask for the supplemental listing. And we keep going until we reach the 5 actual interviews that we conducted. In the event that any of those 5 are not selected, we have to provide justification in order to get any additional name or names.
And so because we are budding up for submitting the new budgets, right? And I'm sure we're still submitting for these positions that we didn't hire yet, right? And hoping that it will continue to be approved. When we do hire though, prior to fiscal year closing, right? We should be okay in that sense, yes.
In terms of finances.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And then if, again, end of fiscal year, we will continue to recruit. If provided that these positions are still have been approved and funded.
We hope, or we anticipate that the recruitment will be completed in a couple of months.
Okay.
From today. We don't foresee it going into FY 2023.
Because I mean, it's already technically June, right? If you think about it, that's 3 more months to the end of this year. Right? Okay. Okay. All right. I mean, our goal, right, is that there's little to no impact in getting these positions filled. And if there are barriers, what are those that we can help on? Where we can get some help and where to help.
May I add to the discussion, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
So, in preparation for these positions, we have already purchased. Yes, so you'll again see them in the offices. So once we can get the bodies on board, we'll get that going.
We're ready to have these new headcounts.
Yes, there's just one thing that we're seeking assistance from OPEC. So, but the general said, the federal and the state. But we have specific position descriptions for the positions that we're looking for. We can provide.
Any other questions? Okay, all right. Thank you. Sorry about that. We can go to the next. Your next slide.
So our second strategy under strategic objective 1.1 is update current processes. To date, we are still working on updating the existing SOP, and we ask that we do back to a month or 2 extension. The reason for the extension is with the changes of the law in terms of like the beneficiary, eligible beneficiary process. We should be forwarding to Attorney Top a process that we developed already that will entail that the CLTC staff will be conducting all the research for our constituents. The only thing that we're going to need from them is to provide the birth certificates or death certificates that will substantiate their relationship to the individual they're creating descendancy of. And we're creating a process to address the reasonably ascertainable element within the law. We have, amongst the staff, we have discussed that the research of the district court John Bond files, the land web, and the John Bond judgment files with Ancestral are the materials we have available to research to determine whether an individual had owned, occupied, farm, or lived. And in the event that we are unable, or the staff is unable to find any type of document to substantiate our applicant's claim, also the affidavits that we will be presenting before for acceptance. So that's one of not holdups, but it's taking time. And the SOP that the existing SOP that we are updating will be very detailed. And we've been the 12-226, I believe. That one too, and then the bar. So there's like all these different authority documents that we have to consider when we're preparing the SOP or updating the SOP, but we will get it done.
And these SOPs is not necessarily just to handle, the existing applications, but everything else that may come through, right? That is outstanding or pending.
It's from the acceptance to the application all the way till the compliance inspection, all that other things. So it's going to entail all the processes we have internally.
And so you're thinking an additional 30 to 60 days to accomplish this?
Yes, yes. That's 60 days at the least. I mean, 30 days at the least, 60 days at the most. Because we're working off the existing, so, you know, we just have to go back and make sure that whatever is in existing is allowable by law. I know that the existing SOP had mentioned something about issuing fines or something in relation to like not complying with the lease terms. Unfortunately, we're gonna remove that because anytime you would apply a fine or something to a program, we have to go through the AAA process. So, and we don't have that authority to issue fines. That's something we'll be removing. And when it's presented to the board after attorney counsel, then the board has any concerns, then, you know, we'll move from there.
Thank you. Any other questions? Everyone?
The next two strategies, update current forms and standardize and digitize forms, coincide with the SOP. So we're also asking the 1 to 2 month extension to complete that. What will happen is in the SOP, we would, when we refer to certain things like the intake of the application, will be the intake of form PLTC 001. So we're going to standardize it.
Great, that's a great idea. Great.
And as far as updating the current forms, even, if I'm not mistaken, I believe they included a question for email addresses, but, you know, we're also going to present that to the board as that was an administrative decision, not a board decision, so we're going to present all the forms that we update to the board for their approval.
Once again, great, thank you.
And we move to strategic objective 1.1.2, which is advanced information technology. Under that objective, there we identified 2 strategies. The first one was to create CLTC website and to digitize all current and future records. Recently, with the assistance of BSP, CLTC has applied for the TAP grant, which would fund the 2 strategies that we had just mentioned. But I believe because of the funding availability, we broke it up into 2 phases. But nonetheless, we do have a funding source, or we're waiting for approval, but we have applied for a funding source to address these 2 strategies. We're recruiting a record management officer, so that individual will start the process of digitizing the current documents we have until it were successful in the federal grant.
So the goal is all these files, all our case files, will be digitized, archived, indexed.
In the TAP grant, also, we mentioned the creation and design of an application. Not as sophisticated as the land web, but something that will work for us internally. So as we start to restructure our layout here at the office, we will have some computers that will not be utilized. So we have discussed creating some type of kiosk outside for less contact with the staff. So a constituent will come in if they want to fill out a form to change the number or whatever it may be. It's going to be there on the computer. They can go right in and start completing it, print it, sign it, or receive it. And, you know, and then also with the application, we haven't ironed out the kinks yet or the actual specs. But there are some specs, but we may want to modify it later. But our constituent will be given a number so they can go in and access the database and see everything that's related to their application. And as soon as everything is digitized, they'll only have access to their folder.
Then that'll free up more space.
Yeah, and a lot of reduce the time
Yeah.
spent trying to Xerox, pull out the files, processing time should also be reduced.
Reduced, yeah. Okay. Good stuff. Commissioner, any questions thus far? Okay. Okay, all right, continue, so thank you.
We move now to strategic goal 2, which is improving stewardship. Under that goal, we have 2 strategic objectives. The first objective is improving the integrity of the programs. And under that objective, we have 3 strategies that we have identified to complete or achieve the objective. The first strategy is update standard operating procedures. The second one is, and we've just mentioned what we're doing with the SOP. The second one is identifying all unlawful actions that have taken place. To date, what we have identified, what actions we have identified contrary to law are, as you all know, the null and voids, which was identified by the Attorney General Juan, which is the switch of application date and times amongst applicants and the transfer of application rights by a giving applicant. Also, we've identified the change of application type, award of lease prior to date and time, award of leases contrary to Public Law 33-78, which is the anything that's over half an acre for agriculture needs legislative approval. We've identified constituents who have 2 leases. We've identified that there have been some naming of present beneficiaries that don't fall within the category within the act. And then we've identified some actions that are contrary to the 180 days successorship for the successive informed commission that have been processed. So as of today, those are just the actions that have been completed that are contrary to law. But we're also seeking guidance from Attorney Tom in regards to certain situations that but we're also working with him as he identified the additional authority for the board.
So you listed what was that 6 or 7 buckets? 8. And so could we say that in general, some of the issues that we continue to see, right, or having to address, fix, etc., kind of all fit in within those 8 categories or buckets?
These are the common issues.
Common issues, yeah, right, okay.
And I don't know if I mentioned the award prior to the date and time. If I didn't, then that's also an issue.
Okay.
But the additional authority that has been presented and adopted by the board from Attorney Tom, they resolve some, but we're going. Our last meeting with the speaker, and she wanted it to be a little bit more detailed, I guess, in terms of instead of having the board having the absolute discretion, we name categories. So we're working with Attorney Tom on that.
Now, with our SOPs, right, given that those are the 9 kind of common issues. So given that we're tightening the SOPs, then anything we handle going forward should not even have any of these issues, right? We're addressing it in the SOPs.
The SOP or the update we're doing now is based on current law.
Right.
If
I mean, of course, things change, right?
we will be able to amend it.
Amended, right, okay. Okay, I just wanted to kind of walk through that, right, again, just to make sure that, yes, we understand and know what are issues that come before us that are common per se, right, and common not being on the positive side of things, but as long as the process or the SOPs to that point will help address everything we deal with going forward, right, but especially with us trying to really work on the 1995s, right, want to get to the next list, right? Get to the next 100, get to the next 200, because that list is about 1,200. So, okay, all right, thank you. Any questions, commissioners? There's a lot there, but thank you for that.
So we move on to strategic objective 2.2, which is improving accountability and performance. Under that objective, we have identified strategies such as update employee performance evaluation criteria, conduct year reviews, schedule employee training and development relevant to their job duties and responsibilities. So we are also working on updating the employee performance evaluation criteria. One of the positions that we are recruiting is the managing supervisor. So we're just prepared. We will prepare the draft until the supervisor has been recruited. He or she may have different expectations for the staff under him. So, we'll give him that courtesy to make any adjustments or amendments or changes to the performance evaluation criteria, at least for the management. For the administrative staff, the director will be reviewing the updated performance evaluation criteria. But nonetheless, we will make sure that the criteria is in line with the PE for each position. Conducting the year reviews is for those who may not be achieving satisfactory ratings as of the year. The supervisor of the respective employees or the director may implement a work plan to address the shortcomings of the employee, so that the employee will be able to achieve at least satisfactory at the end of their required performance evaluation. As far as scheduling employee training and development, so far, I believe 90% of us already have completed the ethics training. Also, the line agents have attended training with Dr. Barbara from the OG. We are looking at other types of training or development that's related to our jobs in general. But nonetheless, we will be scheduling training. We'll be passing training.
Yeah. Would there be any types of trainings that maybe land management they attend that we could jump on? Well, kind of pretty related, right? In that sense.
Oh, we just got. I just received an email about our GIS training that's happening sometime this month of June. We will see how many employees we can send to that training, and it's with I believe the PSP, the Bureau of Statistics and that.
I know there's a meeting actually next week.
On the 23rd.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure, but we'll confirm everything and see if we are able to send any of our employees there to that training. We'll further advance the knowledge.
GIS. What is GIS? What is GIS?
Geographical information system data. I think that's what it's that. Appears to say, yeah.
And geographical information systems.
That's a survey group. Within the 500 feet radius, I believe that's what's used. To get the process going. Data also suffers from staff shortages themselves. So how should be considered so at least to get the process going. We're going to be the beneficiaries of that knowledge shortage. We'll present it to the board if in the event that that's what's required.
And then in the event, or when we do stand up kind of the three subgroups, right, within the department, our managers, QA and administrative, right? I think it may serve us some benefit, right? Put some of the QA groups to help with that. I leave it up to you guys, right? I think those job descriptions, right? That maybe one aspect of their
position, we were also, that was a supervisor, an IH supervisor.
Right, okay.
So that position requires a lot of knowledge of disposition, acquisition, and all that other great stuff. So that also we're looking into that too. But we won't be able to recommend them to fulfill that position. We understand the capabilities and everything.
Is the interview process finished in the round? Supervisor. Okay, so
We haven't received the certification. It's still in the evaluation process.
there's a PP to course reference.
Yes.
The interview.
And the next strategy is to collaborate with the Office of the Attorney General and Department of Land Management, which we have this week. The other strategy is to explore process serving options. We have done that also. Reached out to private process servers. We have already received their requirements and their costs and all that other big stuff. But because Lot 286 was rather small in terms of how many people to serve, our employees here were able to complete that in a timely manner. But nonetheless, it's still an option that we have and we've already received information, so that's available to us. The next strategic objective 3.2 land survey. So everybody knows here we received many clients coming to the office requesting for assistance, whether it's for a survey or because they paid a surveyor, we haven't done something, but we've done our best to try to assist them. So the strategies under the land survey is land inventory. As of today, I believe we commenced the land inventory for track 9210 and 1021, I believe. And it's been they're about 95% completed. What's pending is the compilation of the data. So what I mean by that is identifying how many uses, how many the occupiers. We're also trying to we're going to identify how many leases that were awarded prior to the date of time. It's a very detailed report that's going to be created. So that should be completed soon. After that, we'll move forward to getting information from Ms. Therese regarding parcels that we have almost completely leased out. So that's how we're attacking this. It's based on the information from the database. And if we can determine that it's 95% issued already, we're going to complete that inventory and then move on.
And as you said 9210 and 1021.
I believe it's 1021
track 101.
or 112 on that.
9310.
92, that's in Geo. And 10121 is in
It's Kibo.
or Geo also. Sorry.
Okay.
As soon as we fill the vacancies that we're trying to recruit for, that will relieve the land agents of some tasks, and we can focus on specific projects instead of everybody focusing on 10 projects. Then now down to 3 because we have other divisions within the agency that can handle like the compliance and all that. The next strategy is to identify and propose residential and agricultural parcels. Mr. Pierce Castro has already created schemes for track 10123 in Chigo, lot 10090-1-1, lot 10090-1-R1, and
Track 10316.
track 10316. And that's all for residential uses. So we've also identified other parcels for agriculture uses, which is lot 422, that's in Talifofo. Lot 421, also in Talifofo. track 10140 and track 10148, that's for agriculture. But I believe 10148 and 10140 are unregistered, but we're also working with the top in regards to our registration priority list.
All the other ones in the residential, those are registered
Yes,
already, and then even 42 and 42 for agriculture.
yes.
Okay, all right.
422 and 421 is for our agriculture.
Okay, and they're already registered.
When you say tract, you mean this big parcel of property, right, and which has to be surveyed down, and that's where we create the. Okay.
And the next strategy is to collaborate with the Inland Garden Preliminary Extension System, which is Mr. Pierce Pastor's conduit to the survey division.
One more question in regards to those tracks. Are there any leases on these?
There may be
There
some.
may be some.
Yes. One thing we should disclose is that anytime you survey 6 or more lots, your subdivision map is gonna require the review of the Land Use Commission. And what happens there is, I guess they have an ARC meeting where all these different agencies put in their recommendations, present to the GLC. They requirements in order to approve that subdivision. Like if it's for an agriculture subdivision, if I'm not mistaken, you need to bring water, power to the and gravel road to the lot. If it's for residential, it's more restricted, which is power, water, sewer, sidewalks, drain, all that other great stuff. So even if we wanted to go out and try to parcel out track 10316, it's gonna go to the GRC. When they place the requirements, they may place a deadline, like a 1 or 2 year deadline. So if we don't have the money to install all that requirements, all the infrastructure requirements, even though it's been surveyed per se, the actual legal description will not be recognized that we are able to fulfill the requirements. So it's why we're gonna have to go back and try to verify again.
That's with six lots or more.
But even if we try to circumvent the subdivision and we do 5, that initial approval, the time division of the land may place a restriction that any further subdivision of this parcel would require GLUC review. That's just what it is, and that's what the law is.
How many grants are we looking forward? Are we looking forward to try to achieve and maintain, right? To be able to assist us with at least this infrastructure or surveying.
Currently, we're working with USDA and RCAC for the RD rural land or loan. But there's also a cap on them. It may require to be done in phases. Nonetheless,
Those are two thus far.
so far, it's just the USDA RD loans and grants that we're looking at. RCAC is a nonprofit that's assisting us with our initial grant application. They've been very helpful thus far. I mean, we have 5 meetings with USDA and RCAC regarding our progress. And since we're on that topic, because the employee who registered for the DUNS number and the entity and the SAMs did not leave the login information, and we tried to go in and grant myself to be the administrator of the entity. We were denied. So what we're going to do after consulting with the Stephanie Flores of the Conflict Clearinghouse, we're going to re-register the Jamal Naturals,
Could be any guns,
new SAMs, and all that other good stuff. Just from the new studying of CHamoru, it was rejected. Because what was registered in the SAMs was CHAMMORO or THN. RRO. I was thinking now after CHAMORU. So that was one of the reasons for the denial. And then we're not able to go in to edit our physical address, so I believe they had the physical address and when the TLTC was located at DPW, so that's another problem that we face. So, you know, we thought it might be easier to go in and register. So hopefully that works out. We hope to complete that within the week. Next week. Okay. The next and last strategic objective is 3.3 infrastructure. The strategy set for creating this objective was create priority listings for the installation of infrastructure, collaborate with utility agencies, and explore funding options. So for strategy number one, what we've done was we tried to determine for the residential or identify parcels that are close to sewer, water, and power. So for example, like lot 10090-1-1 is located next to Ironwood Estates. So the connection to power, water, sewer is not that far. That's why we've identified that tract as a priority in the installation of infrastructure. Also tract 10316. That's located next to the golf course. Right? Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
The Ron International Country Club. So there's sewer running along there, power and water. So that's why we also identified that area as on the priority listing for the installation of infrastructure. But also the lot 422 and 421 for agriculture, it's not that far for power and water. So that's why that was also identified for as to scheme out and also on the priority listing for the station of infrastructure. Track 10123 has been identified for our affordable housing that has water, wastewater, power, telephone, all the utilities on the easement going into Paradise Meadows. So that's we hope to complete the RFP process for the affordable housing soon. We're working with Mr. Vanis at DPW. DPW will be the lead on that project.
So that's what I was gonna ask, an update on the RFP, so that's moving along now with DPW.
My last conversation was with Ms. Vanis was she was bumping into some hurdles regarding like the funding source and things of that nature. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put together a draft RFP that will have the overview and all that other great stuff, and ask Attorney Tom to review it prior to sending it to DPW. Which according to Ms. Vanis, their attorneys have been rejecting whatever draft she's been submitting.
That's the next step, the RFP.
So that's everything regarding our strategic plan.
Mr. Rose, the last topic we're talking about, the RFP, how long do you think that will take? Just knowing the process, with your knowledge, right? How long do you think that will take?
It's creating it and getting it approved is the lengthy process. If I'm not mistaken, I believe the RFP, the requirement is only 15 days publication, I believe 15 or 30, one of the immediately after that, after the committee has been, the review committee has been formed, we can dig right into creating the RFP. Our initial goal was to have it published ending of May, and then getting it awarded ending of June, but unfortunately we have a little delay, and we'll do our best to address that and get it out right.
That's one of the issues or the topics that the speaker had asked about, right? So that's good to be on top of that, at least if she ever comes back and we have that, at least thought.
It's a priority for us as well.
Right,
being
right.
that a lot of our properties don't have access to power and water. That's a challenge with a lot of our lessees. So, you know, by it really just gets people involved, so it is important to us.
Yes. Thank you, guys.
But also, like we've identified, the concern also from the speaker was how about those who can't afford a mortgage? So we have identified those other properties in the event that constituents aren't able to afford a mortgage, they send their, the utilities may not be within 100 feet, but it's surely not within 1,000 feet. So we're trying to do our best to see and determine and work with GWA and GPA to see where their expansion plans are, so we can try to plan also in line with that. We've met with GWA before and GPA. But we will be requesting another meeting to address like the USDA grant or loan. We are successful in obtaining a grant or loan to fund the installation of the water and wastewater to track 1022. One of the items of concern, but that was brought up was the payback. And the borrower, who's going to be the borrower, and who's going to pay back. And when the system is built, the GWA is transferred, that asset is transferred to them. And they will be collecting, but we don't know if they're up to such a task. But we will be meeting with them to discuss that.
Thank you. So that's the last piece right from our on the infrastructure side.
Yes, and exploring the funding options, like we mentioned, we are not just settling for the USDA RD grant or loan. We're exploring other options if there is anything available. You know, we've expressed at our budget, or we can talk about that when the budget comes up. But we're doing everything we can to find and research what type of financing options there is available out there.
Good. Any questions? Thanks, Joey. That kind of gives us kind of the where we're at, right? And exactly the path forward. As we all know, right, the agency plan is good, and we will, baseline or to, put out some of the. We know we have a map or a guide that goes through for the next 3 to 5 years or 4 years.
4 months, next 1 month.
4 months plus 3, right? Because we're into this year. But it's definitely a lot of work to kind of keep all these pieces together and keep on top of it. So I'm hoping that as we get our staff hired, that they will be a part of this process too. If there's certain areas that align to their job duties and responsibilities, and that will help us keep on task. So, all right. So let us know if there's any delays, and we can try our best to see what we can help.
We'll do our best to not encounter any more delays.
Hello,
Hi, Commissioner Vidal, any questions?
I have a question for Mr. Cruz.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I would like to know on the master plan, when was that made? What year was that, the master plan done?
Commissioner Vidal, the CLTC strategic plan or CLTC master plan?
The master plan for CLTC.
The ones I recorded, 2017.
2017, Commissioner Vidal.
Okay. Do you sometimes compare your master plan with GWA as far as where they're going to be putting more infrastructure? And how does it relate to our master plan?
According to Pierce, no, there was no discussion with GW But what happened recently was we were informed by GWA that the Atikow area, they have a grant that will pay for the installation of water and wastewater throughout that on the side of Atikow Elementary and the opposite side, also known as the tent city before. So they're gonna run water and wastewater throughout that track or that parcel of property. But according to peers, when the master plan was created in 2017, there was no discussion to amend it to the DH.
But in that adequate area, is that CRT property?
Yes.
Okay, so we will.
Do you think, Joey, if we need to update our master plan?
Definitely, the master plan is really not, it's a working tool. It's subject to change. So it may be changed as we identify anomalies within the master plan, because there have been some anomalies that were identified, such as the constituent placed in a certain area, but really wasn't occupying that area. They were like, on the other side of the property, the constituent who was placed and only they needed half an acre, but the their case was 3 acres. So, you know, there are, the master plan is amendable or can be amended. It's not something that's, it's really a tabletop drawing,
Master plan.
almost like a scheme. So it could be amended. And it will need to be amended as we go along. And that could be superseded by actual maps, from actual surveys that are done.
Any other questions, Commissioner Bernard?
No,
Right, but
thank you.
that is a good point, right? If we can, if there's a way to, I know we've seen, right, the ability to put that on top of where our properties are, right? And see if it aligns with their plan. Right?
GW is now, they've been actually surveying all their pump stations and they got a guaranteed, claiming that even if it's on COTC land, if they need 1,000 square meters, by law, we need to give it to them. So they've been surveying their properties, I mean, the pump sites and future well sites.
And, Piers and I just discussed that yesterday, so we're gonna reach out to the way to determine whether there's, or like their older pump stations, if there's any expansion, because we preserve the lots around that. And, just in the event that, they need to build a new pump station, we're also gonna consider their 300 and 500 foot radius that's needed for either the pump or the pump station or the water well, whatever that is.
Different requirement sizes for whether it's a pump or a well. They've done a lot of maps in the past where they've only requested, they've only parceled like 300 square meters. Now they're asking for 1,000, realizing they need more room for their vehicles and stuff like this. So that right now, as far as I know, that's the minimum that they're asking is 1,000 square meters. But depending on whether it's a pump or a well, they may need more.
Maybe more, right?
Yeah.
And
But they know to discuss that first with us before.
and of course, the area that they serve, right?
Yes,
They
yes,
do it
yeah.
bigger to serve more.
Yeah,
Okay.
So we want to prevent from leasing out any properties in the immediate vicinity of that pump or water. So we don't cause any delays to the expansion and shortcomings for our.
Right.
Makes sense.
Right, thank you, time.
Thank you. Thank you, Joy. Thank you, Pierce. Commissioner Dan, any other, this moment time, any other questions? You're good, Commissioner Dan? She may have stepped away. Okay. All right, next up on the agenda, any further, if there's no other questions, we'll move on to our financial reports. So I wanted to kind of bring this up on the front of the agenda as well, just to kind of review the past couple of months, right? Doing and getting some of those reported, and where are our shortcomings, and where are we going, how we're going to fill those gaps, right? Or at least hypothetically, from a revenue perspective, and then we'll go into the budget request, right? And when is the budget due?
We've submitted the budget already, but
Okay.
our budget hearing is June 1st.
Okay, so the budget's been submitted.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
And that will be one of our items for
And June first is your hearing?
our hearing.
Okay, thank you. June 1st is our hearing. Thank you, my apologies.
We wanted to make sure you're confused.
Okay, thank you for that.
You're planning on being there, right, Mr. Chair?
Let me know the date and time. Okay, all right, so let's go with the revenue collection. So we've got the past couple months here. We don't have April yet, right?
No.
Okay, all right.
So for February 2022, I'll just go over what we collected and for March, I'll give you the total.
Okay.
So for February 2022, COTC's operations fund collected $32,277.58. CLTC survey and infrastructure fund collected $223. CLTC's loan guarantee fund collected $57,580.36, bringing the total collection for all three funds to $90,088.94. That's for February 2022. For March 2022, CLTC's operations fund collected $8,860.73. Bringing the total committed collected for the fiscal year to $459,432.55. For CLTC survey and infrastructure fund, it collected $10,495.33, bringing the total committed total for the fiscal year to date $16,396.66. CLTC's loan guarantee fund collected $13,036.55, bringing the committed total to $112,717.27. So that's from the committed total for the fiscal years from October to March.
Okay. So, pardon me if I asked this before. So when we look at what we collected in total today, right? Where does that compare to what our projections are for the fiscal year?
For the fiscal year,
So do we see where the projections were and where we're at? So more like kind of like a budget variance?
so for the ending FY 2021, September 30, 2021, if I'm not mistaken, we projected total collections for the operations fund at 790,000 or 824,000. I don't own to the exact number. I don't have it on me. But March. If we are going to operate at a break even, then for FY 2022, I believe we need to collect $600,000 more, which is the next 6 months, which is about $100,000 a month. We can tell you now that our top two lessees or our highest paying lessees is GTA and GICC. GTA has paid already, GICC hasn't paid. We sent them the letter regarding the board's decision in the previous board meeting about not granting any rent reduction, but extending the repayment 1 year. So instead of 2, I think it's 3 or something, 3 or 4, something like that, and supporting the rate increase. Today we have received any feedback from them. I believe that they have obtained consultation services of Mr. Carlos Camacho, so I think we will be meeting with Mr. Camacho soon to discuss any other proposals they may have that will address their arrears and stuff like that. But I don't foresee us collecting anywhere close to $1 million for FY 2022, especially since we were to see and desist on the raceways excavating activities, mineral extraction activities. So we don't foresee But even at that, we have been frugal in our expenditures, so we are controlling between our wants and needs internally for the department. So even though we were appropriated $1 million, we're not gonna spend up to $1 million as part of us being frugal in our expenditures. So we're tracking that. We may operate in deficit for FY 2022, but they will be minimized.
Right.
Because of that.
Okay, and so with that said, right, we do have, the GICC, right? And so I know that Commissioner Herrera, right, I do want him to continue, in regards to wanting to go out and assess, right? And do site visit. Yeah, okay, that's great. So that, again, we want to, at least the intention is to, for Commissioner Herrera to focus on our commercial side. I want to have Commissioner Santos to help focus on the 95 list, for example. We'll get to that. But it's, for each of us to kind of have kind of not necessarily the oversight, but, to work with the land agents or the team that is responsible, right? From the commercial side, the residential side, how we can assist to move things forward, right? And then report back to the commission, right, on our regular meetings. What was observed, what can be done, what doesn't look appropriate, et cetera, right? So that's good. That would be the intent. And Commissioner Rivera has definitely been very proactive for that. So appreciate that, sir.
We have scheduled a site inspection for the Guam International Country Club. We're also going to circle back to the Guam Racing Federation and conduct some GPS points, because we will be requesting some assistance from DLM to determine what area was, or how much area was over excavated, and therefore their approval of the previous board.
We mentioned February, Friday last week, we received the total survey, correct?
From I think Friday or Thursday from Guam Racing Federation. It's been given to peers for his review. Our only concerns is, as we mentioned, is from the total was in relation to just the activities of Smith Bridge for phase 5A, zone 1, or whatever that area, I don't remember exactly what it was designated as. But Hawaiian Rock also was conducting activity at the north side of the racetrack, or the drag strip, which tear down the wall that divided the private property and the Morancho's property. So that's another question we have, is how are we going to ascertain what was taken out of the area that Hawaiian Rock was conducting mineral extraction activity? Another concern that we had when the backfilling, one issue is that the permit doesn't allow for imported backfill. So the gravel or the road issue we have is if there was no need, they removed material, they replaced it with, I guess, satisfactory material. I don't know.
And that's continue to stay on top of that. Yeah. And of course, we're not receiving any revenues in regards to that.
We returned,
right?
Based on Attorney Tom's guidance, we returned all the mineral extraction
up to a certain point. Now, just as a reminder, right, for whatever we received in the past should be our starting point, like the benchmark of what this area looked like before and after. Right? So just again, that's my request, right? With Commissioner Herrera's involvement is all of our commercial stuff that we know are small fires burning. We want to continue to keep our pulse in that, and if we need to have bring in our lessees for that, we bring it in, right, and have those conversations.
Also, Mr. Chairman, I met with Henry Simpson last week as well, and mentioned to him that bringing in asphalt and other materials is not allowable. It's on the permit, so I did ask him to please stop that activity. And if there's an observation that's ongoing, we will issue a cease and desist.
We
And he's
scheduled,
aware.
we're scheduled to go out next week, Thursday. Everyone. Well,
As long as we schedule it and and give them the heads up that we'll be there, right? That's the respect that we want to also give, vice versa. So I appreciate that. But again, when we take a look at our revenues, right? That's kind of where, if that's stopped, then we shouldn't be accounting it for the budget.
Yeah, we-
Right? Okay.
what we've done was, we've taken the projected revenue section, for example, for 2023, and we considered our receivable. Or so the receivables from international country clubs, since the board did not decide on a rent reduction or did not approve a rent reduction, so that's actual revenue that's owed to us. Because there is an actual timeline for repayment, so we consider that too, so.
Yeah. We would still want to have that.
You said there's absolutely no like return response from them.
Nothing from anything. Nothing that I remember. They may have been an email that Mr. Yoho had sent informing us that he received it and they'll be discussing it with the owners of the golf course.
All right, so again, some of the things that we want to keep on top of us, this additional site visits, for basically as well as we'll look forward to your updates next week. Again, all related to revenue or lack thereof. Thank you. Then our budget request. So I wanted to just so now that we've submitted it, right, and we have our hearing on the first. Okay, do we have the? Is there anything? I just wanted to ask the commissioners, right? Is there any question in regards to the budget we submitted? Join us if you like. Commissioner Medallo, any questions on the budget? Or
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I just wanted to know, December of last year, 2021, on the commercial lease, we collected about $300,000. Are we expecting more payments from commercial leases? Meaning, are there any more arrears?
The $300,000 payment in December was from GTA. That's their annual payment. So we won't collect that money during this fiscal year, but we will get in December. As far as payments, reaching the total of 100,000. On the top of my head, I don't think we're gonna collect 100,000 each month for the next 6 months. Like I mentioned, the two highest lessees, or two lessees that pay the highest is GTA and GICC. GICC is not paying, and the board did approve a deferral until January 2023, so we won't expect that. We don't even know whether what the board had approved is acceptable for them in terms of their ability to pay. Still waiting. But in relation to what we do know as of today, we won't collect 100,000 each month for the next 6 months.
Well, unless there's a huge turnaround with GICC, right?
Yes,
In the next few months.
we don't anticipate it though. We hope.
Anything else, Commissioner Medallo?
Excuse me. No, I'll let it go this time.
Sure.
Are you sure? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, how are we going to make $2 million?
Well, what it is, since we're discussing the budget, okay, what we initially submitted was a budget was for $2,024,076. But that is broken up from 3 different funding sources. So, for example, for the general fund, we're requesting $827,354. From the operations fund, we're requesting $959,222, and from the SID fund, $237,500. So that will equal the $2 million that we're requesting. Although, what we will discuss later with the administrative director is that we will propose a technical adjustment to our budget submittal. But we went back and we reviewed the law for the survey infrastructure fund. So in reality, we don't need an appropriation to spend any money from that fund. The board just meets, create a resolution, send it to the legislature speaker, and we just report what we've expended from that fund. So the technical adjustment we're going to request for is to reduce our survey infrastructure fund appropriation request amount from $237,500 to just $59,604. That will keep us in line with the executive budget. Anything over that, the board can spend, just as long as we keep it to what it's restricted to, and there's a resolution reported to the legislature and all that other great stuff. So our budget request will decrease to $1,846,180.
1846.
And from our meeting with our pre-budget meeting with Office of Finance and Budget, I am happy to inform you guys that we will be spending 9% less in FY 2023 for personnel expenses. So we reduced our personnel expenses. That's based on the evaluation from all. Compared to FY, there's a 9% reduction in personnel costs.
So can we spend that money now?
No, we're not.
Don't ask me. No, we cannot get there.
Okay, so just to kind of tie up this section, any other questions?
Joe, okay, I know these are, I'm not too sure how many years back this was, but was it the governor? I don't know which one was, took out money from the, to SID fund, right?
I believe it was in 2017.
Okay, did we have any?
How it worked,
600,000?
yeah, how it worked was that at that time, the economy and the government's financial ability to repay any type of loan from a fund, working, they did not display their ability. For one, because that total was compounded over several years. So and there's I think it was ASB 34, I believe, we had to apply to ASB 34. So we had to write it off. If we didn't write it off, we won't receive a fee audit. We just won't, because the presentation of the financial statements did not comply with the ASB 34. I believe it was the ASB 34. So it was a write-off on our book. But if the question is, have we received any money in relation to that? No. Because if we did, we would have reversed it and then recorded, transferred to us, and then recorded and realized that we haven't received anything in relation to the 600,000.
All right, so just kind of wrap the revenue and the budget side, right? So Joey, the one thing I do want, I know there's no updates on the 95 application status, right? But just kind of in line with this side of the financials, you know, I'm sure there's a way that we can figure out how to fund, right, the necessary steps to get us through the first 100 and the next 100 and 200, et cetera, right? So whatever type of notification that's needed, can you guys work on that to kind of get us get us moving. I'm sure there's a way to help fund that. I know one of the recommendations was because we had budgeted for 2 meetings, granted that the size, the size of the ads are a lot bigger these days, but when you think of 12 months times 2, I'm sure there's some wiggle room, and that's determining what's that communication that we, is it a publication in the newspaper? Is it handing out flyers? Is it an open house? Whatever it is, right? Get them in and communicate and update and move through these numbers. The reason why I bring that up, I'm just gonna not to belabor it, and I know you guys can put a plan together, is that we've been at this for the past 5-6 months, I want to say, since I asked Eileen to kind of take us through this. And yeah, we've done the outreach, but there's still that large percentage that we can't get a hold of. So we got to move on that. So, and then move to the next 100 and the next 100, right? So we got to devise a plan, otherwise there's continue to be a stone.
We'll figure that out financially, what we'll forego in terms of procuring in order to fund that type of activity. But we'll also, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, if we're unable to contact the constituent, we can, the end all be all is we send a certified email, and after 90 days they don't respond, we can remove them from the waiting list. So, that's gonna be the process for us to move forward, right? So we don't bypass anybody.
And we want to be very deliberate that we document all of this, right? And make sure that and if they do come back, right, well, how are we going to handle that, right? So that will be a scenario we have to.
If they come back on the 91st day, then they exceeded the 90 days. I mean, we've been applying the 180-day rule to constituents, so we've been terminating their applications because the successor didn't notify us in writing in 180 days.
Understood. And then I'm kind of going off per se, but more so on the financial side, we can figure that out. Yeah.
We'll do that financially. We'll forego some things. We'll figure out what we could forego, and we can use that funding to address whether it's through certified mail, publication, or anything like that. But we'll do it in line with the laws, at least in the event that there should be any appeals or anything for that matter. We follow the law to the process.
What helped though, what helped was last month's newspaper article about being under this and the about this. And I've had a bunch of people come and say, okay, how do I go? I think my number might be changed and it's not correct. So I don't know about that. And it's just that information sharing. Yes. Oh, yeah. So that's what I informed them. Hey, okay, good. You're aware of that. Your number might be changed. Okay, great. Go inside the office and change it.
That's one of the struggles. Or not one, but that's the struggle.
That's
How do we get into the newspaper without having to pay for it?
But we want to do our due diligence, pay for it too.
Yeah.
If it's free,
Yeah.
you're welcome back.
Right.
Okay, moving forward, move to the next agenda item, our agency report. Angie, you can walk through that for us.
So, for today's meeting, we're just 2 items and really touch on, one of them, which is the update on the USDA CHamoru. So tomorrow, CHamoru from CHamoru is on island, and Joanna will meet her tomorrow. We'll do a site inspection with her, and she wants to review it. So, we still have our bi-weekly meetings with them and with USDA. So that's where we're at with that project that we have going.
What is RCAC?
They're a non-profit group that's assisting us with this infrastructure grant through USDA.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It was the name of what's RCAC?
I'm not sure where she comes from. She's out of Hawaii.
Okay.
And she comes with a team of experts with her. So people in finance, people in engineering, and all kinds of different disciplines. So we're very fortunate to have them helping us.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. And then the only other item that I wanted to report was Our meeting in Hawaii last week was very successful. For EPA, together with Forum EPA, we met with CNMI's EPA, as well as American Samoa. So it was really great that they finally brought the islands together to talk about the successes and the challenges so that we can learn from each other. So this is with regards to floods, which is the explosive ordnance possibility on some of our properties and neighboring properties. So Army Corps of Engineer wants to do studies. Priority is in Jigo, right outside of Addison Air Force Base. And that is the focus now. So Army Corps of Engineers still has a little bit of work to do on their side. They've reduced the area which they want to study, which still affects us because we own a large truck, and they actually want to start with us because we're probably the easiest for them, as opposed to approaching every individual owner in the surrounding areas to get permission. So at the time that they're ready to proceed, we will approach the board and invite them to speak with you about what the processes that we're doing. My understanding is everything is non-invasive. This is just a study at this point to see if there's anything buried into the ground.
Right.
And I just think that from meeting with them, this is important because it's better to know what's under the ground before there's any development. You know, when you start scratching the surface and all of that and discover any kinds of ordinance, so it's better to do it this way. And they're also working with us so that we can give them our priority list. For example, we mentioned our affordable housing project. So if they can put that into their plans to do that before we start groundbreaking, that would be ideal. So it was a very successful meeting. Thank you for allowing me to attend.
Thank you for attending. That's a great study that will give them that track to start their study up.
Yeah, definitely have to pitch that.
Secretary, RCAC stand for Rural Community Assistance Corporation.
Rural community,
Communities.
Community Assistance Corporation.
Thank you.
Anything else?
That's all.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, commissioners, any questions on some of the agency updates? Commissioner Vergara? Any questions?
No.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, next up on our agenda, we actually have a couple of agencies that wanted to address the board. First up, we do have the Guam Housing Corporation. So you guys can join us at the table, and then for record purposes, please state your name.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Board of Directors. We're here from Well Housing. My name is Tina Payne, President of Well Housing, and I have Mary Guerrero here is the loan administrator. Okay, so we're actually here, as you may know, there was an MOU that was prepared. I think you were in one of our meetings with the chairman, and I have to apologize that the resolution was signed a few months ago. Unfortunately, there was some oversight on our part, but nonetheless, we were able to submit the MOU, and I will defer to the board if there's any questions that if you have an opportunity to read it, if not, we're here to answer any questions.
Don't worry. We just received, yes, I believe on Friday. And I just felt that it was very unfair to present it and expect our board to act on it today. So I just asked the with Ms. Edith and Ms. Mary, if they will come down. Just make it known that there is a proposed MOU for consideration. I mentioned to them that today I will send you the draft MOU. And I believe it's still in draft. I believe it's still subject to, I sent it to Attorney Tom for his review. We're giving him the time to review it. This is supposed to reflect our VA MOU, correct?
It's supposed to mirror the memorandum, the agreement with what CHamoru Land Trust had signed with Guam Housing as well as the Veterans Administration related to providing financial assistance to veterans under the Veteran Loan Program, particularly under the Native American, because there's special funding for it. So they've been really pushing us to assist in providing loans for the veterans. Of course, that cannot commence until the applicant or the veteran has in fact an executed lease agreement with CHamoru Land Trust. But that being said, and addressing how these loans would be serviced absent of a loan guarantee, GHC was included so that we can assist CHamoru Land Trust and Veterans Administration how best we can service the loans to prevent a default or work with them so that the loan can remain performing. And we're still doing that. So in relation to the MOU, that the agreement that we have forwarded to Ms. Angie, this was really to address and to try to provide a response to individuals that were supposedly given a CHamoru Land Trust lease. However, I think it was determined that they are not first-time homeowners. Right now, Guam Housing, in its mandate, cannot provide loans as well to non-first-time homeowners. That's specific in our mandate. But to address this, I believe they proposed a change that in order to help any lessee that will get the CHamoru Land Trust, then we be allowed, since we are one of two financial institutions that would be able to provide financial assistance to CHamoru Land Trust recipients. So that is being worked on. I know that there was a proposed bill on GHC's part so that we can allow non-first-time homeowners to apply, specifically those that may be recipients of a CHamoru Land Trust, because they really don't have, they only have one other financial institution. And if they're not a veteran, they won't be able to get that financial assistance. So this MOU was a resolution that was passed by our board, was to try to resolve that in the event that a lease was in fact executed by CHamoru Land Trust and they met all the requirements, then if they're not first-time homeowners, and I don't know if they no longer meet the definition of a first-time homeowners after they have applied for CHamoru Land Trust, but we are going to defer to, of course, to CHamoru Land Trust to make that decision if that lease that was executed is still valid. If it was determined that it is, we've also been advised that because they're of a different priority and they're non-first-time homeowner, a loan guarantee may not be issued. That being said, and because GHC would be limited in exercising any type of foreclosure action, but we have faith that we can help the individual, either help CHamoru Land Trust find another eligible lessee and let them take over the loan. This is absent of a loan guarantee, but we do know you have along this that we shouldn't have a problem finding someone else to assume that loan. But the way it was presented was, in the event there's no loan guarantee, would CHamoru Land Trust still go into this MOA, but we need to both
exercise due diligence to make each loan a performing loan. And that's basically what it is. We're not asking for any exception of the rule. If they're not eligible, then they're not pursuant to the law. We would definitely defer to CLTC to determine that. But what we were told is that they were given a lease, but they did declare that they're not first-time homeowners. Right now, we cannot entertain them either because we cannot give those to non-first-time homeowners, but I guess trying to look forward, how best we can address that issue. That's basically what it is.
Okay, thank you. Chris, any questions?
It's just like a proposition at this moment.
Yes.
Right,
Yes,
okay.
yeah.
I don't have any questions, so Angie will be sending that over to us.
Right.
And then we could address that in the next board meeting. Yes, okay. Commissioner Verdalio, since you're on Zoom, any questions on this?
I defer to our lawyer.
Okay, thank you. All right, and then I'm sure Attorney Top will have some of that. But thank you very much for your time. And
Thank you very much.
bring
Very
that
much. Thank
to
you
our
very much.
attention, and we will address it if we're ready by the next meeting.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
Thank
thank you.
you very much.
Okay, next up on our agenda is the Department of Land Management, but I do not see them here yet. So what we can do, we're going to move, we'll put them towards the end. I'll just move that around. We did talk a little bit about the 95 application status update. Commissioner responses, I think just to round it off, I would, if I could ask you to kind of help, kind of be the commission, the board's representative to kind of help steward that along with Ms. Ivy and Ms. and Joanna. And just kind of reporting back.
Understood what you said earlier.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So let's go ahead and move up to the constituent matters. We have, I know one we will table, that's for Angela N. C. Santos, not to be mistaken for Commissioner Angela L. G.
Not
Santos.
Commissioner Santos.
Okay, and so we have, first up is Francisco G. Rios.
Yes, and Mrs. Rios is here, that before you, that's her before we started.
Oh, yes. Okay, so I began the meeting and I forgot to just kind of, for the record, on our publication. So for the record, right, the public notices for today's meetings are published in the Guam Daily Post on May 12, 2022 and May 17, 2022. Notices are also posted online on the Chamorro Land Trust website at the dlm.guam.gov, the Chamorro Land Trust Commission's Facebook page, and the Government of Guam's public notice portal at notices.guam.gov. This meeting is being live streamed on the Chamorro Land Trust Commission's Facebook page and as well as the YouTube channel of Guam Live. Video and audio recordings made possible in addition to by our partners at the YouTube. Okay, thank you. I apologize for missing that.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, Attorney Powell, Mr. Chairman. Today I present to you Francisco Guerrero Rios, who is deceased. I do have his wife here with us, Mrs. Rios, and the matter for today is minor child named as a beneficiary. The facts, I'm just going to read everything down the line. The facts, application type is residential, application date and time is December 7, 1995, 4:50 p.m. Numerical designation number 0001646. The priority status is 1. Lot survey, yes. And it's surveyed by Ray Cruz, and the FY number is 228 FY2015. Fees issued and ratified, yes. Preoccupier, no. LUP, not applicable. On December 7, 1995, Francisco Rios submitted a residential application for Chamorro Land Trust. On January 2, 1996, $50 was made and received from CLTC for a fair processing fee. December 17, 2012, residential interview signed and named Christian Nicholas Rios as his beneficiary. I just want the commission to know also that Christian is also here with us today. October 7, 2015, agriculture subdivision survey map recorded under instrument number 884204 for tract 11405, block 13, lot 11 in Denver. November 17, 2015, residential lease issued for lot 11, block 13, tract 11405, Davido, containing an area of 2,023 plus or minus square meters, as shown on subdivision master plan number 2015 M05-16, recorded under BLM map document number 880839. February 18, 2016, residential lease recorded under instrument number 888955. On May 24, 2019, Lo Ann Rios, wife, informed CLTC that Francisco Guerrero Rios, her husband, had passed away. She provided CLTC with a copy of their marriage certificate and Mr. Rios' death certificate. The date of death indicated on the certificate is May 7, 2019. Ms. Rios inquired how their son, Christian Nicholas Rios, could assume her deceased husband's lease rights. On April 28, 2022, CLTC received the following documents filed in the Superior Court of Guam for Mrs. Rios as the legal guardian of her son, Christian Nicholas Rios. The following documents are order appointing guardian of the person, oath of guardian, letters of guardianship of the person. On May 3rd, 2022, CLTC received an affidavit from Lo Ann Rios acknowledging she will act on behalf of her son, who is a minor, relative to his rights as a beneficiary of his father's CLTC lease until such time he reaches the age of 18. Findings are CLTC resolution number 2019-02, resolution to grant the authority to the administrative director relative to approving beneficiary designations for leaseholders. Refers to Public Law 23-38, Section 9.188, which reads designation of successors. A lessee shall, upon execution of the lease, designate the person in whom lessee directs the interest and the tracts to vest upon death. Such person must be qualified to succeed to CHamoru homelands as provided by the Act and these rules. A lessee may elect to provide for the surrender of the lot upon death and may select the recipient for the proceeds from the surrender. A lessee's designation under this section may be changed at any time by the lessee. B, such designation shall be made as specified in the Act with the right and the lessee to change the beneficiary at any time, if filed with and approved by the Commission. The reason why I did that is because the director has the authority, but it's upon lease issuance, and in this case, there was already a lease issue. 21 GCA, Chapter 75, Section 75-109C reads, should any successor or successors to a tract be a minor or minors, the Commission may appoint a guardian, therefore subject to the approval of the Superior Court. Such guardian shall authorize to represent the successor or successors in all matters pertaining to the leasehold, provided that said guardian shall in no such and so representing such successor or successors comply with the provisions of this chapter and the stipulations and provisions contained in the lease, except that said guardian need not be a native CHamoru as defined in 75-101 of this chapter. No fault of Mr. Francisco Guerrero Rios, and like most who applied for the CHamoru Land Trust program, a lease was issued before his time and date. Before his passing, he was able to have the lease property surveyed. Unfortunately, he has passed and was not able to gain the full benefits of this program. Mrs. Lo Ann Rios, the surviving spouse of Mr. Francisco Rios, would like to assist her son, who was named the beneficiary, to obtain the lease and all rights as a designated beneficiary under the CLCC program. All the necessary documents have been provided to support her with this process. My recommendation is for the CHamoru Land Trust Commission Board of Commissioners to consider Mrs. Flo Ann Rios, the mother and the guardian appointed by the Superior Court of Guam, to Christian Nicholas Rios to assume his father's residential lease as the main successor.
Thank you, Ms. Tina. And then Ms. Rios, just for the record, can I state your name?
Glow Ann Rios.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, I'll start with the commissioners. Anybody has any questions to start?
And everything's in place, all the documents needed, right?
Yes,
They're in our file.
yes, and I have them here. I didn't do them as an attachment, but for an exhibit that it's all received, and she provided me with originals filed in the Superior Court on April 28th. And again, the reason why we did it this way, I guess as it states on the chapter 75, normally they would come in when a beneficiary is, that is named as the minor, would come in, the commission has the authority to make the decision, provided that they are the guardian from Superior Court. But in this case, it was reversed. She went ahead and did the steps, and now we're coming.
Yeah, I'm just approving the.
Question. And Christian's here.
I guess.
How old is he now?
14.
Any questions, commissioners? Commissioner Medallion, just to give you the opportunity, any questions?
I have no questions.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so just to reiterate, the task before us is for the commission to approve that Ms. Goyan Rios is the mother and the guardian appointed by COG for Christian Nicholas Rios, and upon him being of age, will take over his father's lease, correct?
Yes. And so should it be approved, the file will change and it'll be Christian's name, or I'm sorry, Ms. Lowen's name, trustee for Christian.
And just to again to make sure we're itemized here that in December of 2012, that Christian was named the beneficiary of success.
Yes,
And we have that document.
yes.
Okay, commissioners, any questions? Otherwise, if you would like to proceed to take action.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to consider Ms. Flo Ann Rios, the mother and the guardian appointed by Superior Court of Guam, Christian Nicholas Rios, to assume his father's residential lease as their main successor.
Thank you, Commissioner Herrera. Can you get a second?
I second that motion.
And Commissioner Santos, any objections?
None.
Okay, hearing none, the motion passes for Ms. Loan Rios, the mother and the guardian appointed by the Superior Court of Guam, to Christian Nicholas Rios to assume his father's residential lease as their main successor. Okay, thank you, Mrs. Rios. Thank you, Christian, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Take care, Ms.
Okay, I did, Ms. Eileen notified me that, the other, so Ms. Rios, you can stay or you can go. Yeah, it's up to you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
All right, so they informed that the other one's here, but let's go ahead and get to the other item on the agenda for Mr. Pedro Pangilinan. And Jessica, you're the easy. Okay. Do we have Mr. Pangilinan present?
He's deceased.
Oh, I'm sorry. So any of this?
The successors deceased as well.
Okay.
So, half a day, I'm Jessica Bailey, I'm a land agent with CHamoru Land Trust Commission. So this case I brought during the February Board of Commissioners meeting, and it was tabled pending Mr. Hoff's opinion on the matter.
You want me to take over here?
Sure.
So, yeah, the situation was that the original applicants, passed away in 2014.
2007.
2007. He did name a successor to his application, who then passed away in 2011. That successor, to our knowledge, did not come in and name an additional successor. So starting from 2011, that under section 5.8, that clock, that 180-day clock starts running. And I don't think you received any submission or application from any of the relatives within that 180-day window. So the issue, and you know, this is kind of an unequal situation. Successor also passing away within the time before we get the whole event and get them signed in with their successor. So the issue is a timeliness thing. The children of the applicant did not come in until 2020. So under that section 5.8, because that 180-day period passed, the application should be canceled and the applicant's name removed from the waiting list.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions? That's kind of where we're at.
Children present?
No.
They're not on the lawn.
Actually, there's one who passed away, and then the same property, because Mr. Panalino was preoccupied. He had a land use permit, so upon his death, his other child occupied the property, and then later on CLTC issued a lease to her. So then she passed away, and then it went to her successor.
On another property.
It's the same property.
And the successors, right?
CLTC, the board designated her successor to her aunt's lease.
So, and she's no longer around as well.
No, she's there, but she has a lease already with CLTC.
Oh, she has her own.
She has her own.
And so just to clarify, the issue at hand is just to cancel the agriculture application and remove Mr. Pedro Union from the wait list.
Correct.
That's the only action from the board. And again, it's the agriculture application.
Yes.
All right. Any other questions, Commissioner Guerrero? Mr. Sanchez?
Yeah, number 5 summary, right? I'm reading here that the children's affairs to be designated successors to pass the 180 days. So the children are here? That's-
No.
No. So who's
That's,
requesting?
so when they came in, one of one of Mr. Penman's daughter came in, and she was requesting to take over this application.
So the daughter is here.
Yes, but she also has an application of her own.
Oh.
She has a CLTC application in agriculture.
Okay.
And then the other child, Mr. Pangalin's son, has a lease with CLTC.
So they're all.
They're
all
all
have a-
anonymous.
Okay, got it.
So they have an existing lease plus an existing application.
They won't be unanimous or.
So it's just a matter of the deceased, Mr. Pedro Union.
So the daughter who came in, Ms. Castro, she does have an application with CLTC, it's just a waiting, that we're waiting on for her to move forward. The land that Mr. Panalino was occupying, it went to his other daughter, who is now deceased, but then that lease went to her niece, her brother's daughter.
So no one's being displaced or anything like that. It's just a matter of this existing application that we have. And all the other successors or beneficiaries are counted for in the sense of they have a lease and or they have an application, correct?
Correct.
Just removing his name from the residence.
Any other questions? Okay, Commissioner Bergalio? Any questions?
No.
Okay, thank you. All right, so commissioners, I turn to you for any further action.
Okay, I'll go ahead, Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion.
Yes, Commissioner.
Okay, thank you. Okay, who's spending? Over the, let me see. For the children's, no, for Mr. Pangilinan, paper to Pangilinan to be removed from the listing. Okay, the waiting list
For the for agriculture.
for
The
agriculture
agriculture.
application.
Yes. Okay, so Commissioner, just one more time, you can restate it.
I make a motion for the deceased Mr. Pedro Pangilinan, Pedro Cruz Pangilinan to be removed from the agriculture listing.
Thank you. May I get a second?
I second that motion.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Santos. Any objections?
None.
Okay, hearing none, motion passes to remove Mr. Pedro Cruz Pangilinan from the waiting list for the agriculture application. Okay. Thank you, Commissioners. Okay, so next up, we do have Department of Land Management. If you can please join us at the table.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do see Clubhouse, and I think they were ahead of us.
They're done.
Oh, they just want to come and watch it. Thank you.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you very much. I just want to introduce some of the backup that I brought here. We have Margarita Borja, no relation. She's from she's the Land Management Administrator at the Department of Land Management, and then Matt Leon Guerrero here. He's a Land Agent Supervisor. And we also have Stephanie Duenas, who's a land agent for the Department of Land Management. All three of them comprise the Land Administration Division at Land Management, and they provide most of the information that I'm going to present today. Having said that, I'm here today to discuss a letter that I sent to the chairperson, I think about a couple of weeks ago, Mr. Chairman. And it had actually 3 items on the agenda request we put on the agenda rather. And that's public law 2218, and then some land registration information and seeking guidance. And 3 is the cultural center, and then 1 is an administrative matter that we'll take at the end of the meeting. First off, for public law 2218, Margarita, if you pass out that package. We were gonna do this visually and try and say for 3, but we had a little problem with the technical thing. And what public law 2218 does is it reserves government land for the use of the various departments. You may say, well, what's that got to do with the land trust? Well, because if it is a 100-acre lot and the legislation public law 2218 reserves 50 acres for school, then the remaining acres probably should go to the CHamoru land trust, and that will increase your inventory, of course, of available lands that you have. Some of the lands are not registered, some are registered, but for the most part, the lands that are in public law 2218, and we have a list there that we've given you of about 20 lots. You have joint tenants. In other words, public law 2218, like I said, reserve a portion of a certain lot, put down the acres reserved for what purpose, and you see that in some of them the acreage is there's some left over, so where's that going to go? And we believe that it should go to the land trust. And we actually just went down the line, and I'm very glad Commissioner Herrera's to my left here, because the first lots are actually in Agan, and we just looked through it to the public law 2218 by alphabetical order, and this day we spelled all that with an A there, so it would be first. If we put it on H, just might be down the line. The first lot that is owned by it is the land trust has a lease on, and it's reserved actually for the VFW Memorial. It's an Agat lot 266-1-1. I think that's over by Tiny up that road. Yeah, I think on that road. The second one that we have is a satellite office in Agat for lot 251-2. And in that particular one, that lot is 15 acres. And what was reserved is only 1 acre for satellite office for public health. So, what's happening with the 14 acres there? And that's something that you guys have to do. The third lot is a bigger lot, lot 480 in Agat. The lot is 202 acres. And 35 acres was reserved for an elementary school, 2 acres reserved for a DPW bus satellite station, 30 acres for a 20 acres rather for a cultural center. You know that the island only has actually 2 cultural centers. One down in Dumont in Ipoh Point, which is your property, and then the other one is down in Alahan. But that one has problems with the ownership because the government never condemned those properties. So that the Pagu area is actually still private property. And there was actually a public law that allowed or prescribed for the land exchange for those properties out there. But most of those lots are 90 square meters, 110 square meters. And you don't really want to do a land exchange for another 90 square meters. You want maybe something that's so for that particular one, like in Gepagu, we may come back to the legislature and the commission to see what we can do about getting that Gepagu as a formal cultural center, belonging to the government or to the landowners for that matter, but to maintain it as a cultural center. But in Agat, in lot 480, there's 20 acres for a cultural center. And on the agenda, when I get down further in the agenda, there's also a discussion about the Dedido Cultural Center, which is a different animal. They're called cultural centers, but they're really different animal, different cultural centers on that. And then also in Agat, lot 480 Agat, reserved by Public Law 21-108 is the post office in that lot. And Commissioner Herrera probably knows that the topography of that property. It may not be suitable for a post office. And in any event, the post office came several years ago, and I took him down to see that lot, and I took him up to NCS, and I took him to another lot that belonged to the land trust, but is reserved for a post office, and that's in the sports complex area, and I believe it's track 100C. And then also in that same lot, lot 480 Agat is plans for a lower court, subservient court to the downtown court, something similar to the northern court facility. If you remember I think it was the ancestral lands that gave up some property for a northern court facility, which is still operating now. So there were plans to do a lower court down in Agat also. And that lot 480, is 202 acres, and not all of it has been, has been observed. So what I'd like for you to do is take a look, and I don't want to go through all of the lots because there is, as you can see, quite a lot. And I can come back, or I can do it. I've got a couple of hours, so I can get out of here before 8 to do that. But let me just go with that one out there that is actually, I'll take the other next to 431-R1 Agat. And that one's kind of like important because that is also, I believe, the site of the proposed incinerator. Yeah, so you have to kind of take a look at that. And it says PUAG here, but PUAG has a reservoir when GWA was PUAG prior to that. And then there's also a reservoir in Aston about 469-1, which is a very productive stream down in Agat. But here's Agat. You got one there, right? Everybody got one. Now, the shaded area is just a conceptual thing. Does it mean that that's where the elementary school is going to be? No. We put that in there to see if the acreage reserve is equal to, the lot. Did we over promise, things in that area. And also, as you can see, the easements are straight. The shortest distance between 2 points, straight line. Sometimes roads don't always turn out like that. Sometimes there's a rock in the middle or creek or something in the middle that might have to turn. But inside this 202 acres, the land trust has already issued approximately 70 leases, 70. And those are all those yellow squares on the top. So we're kind of like here today before you to make sure that at least we talk about maybe your next leases, that you don't put your next 1 acre lease in the middle of a 20-acre parcel, and therefore we can't build a school in there. But more importantly, Guam law requires the Department of Land Management to conduct an inventory of government lands. And we tried to do that in May of the first year of 2019. And we had some responses on that. And that's basically to find out what the needs are of the other agencies in terms of land. And we had some good biders to the book. We had Guam EPA, who needed a headquarters, and we found land over there in Dedido, kind of next to your property, Global Recycling in the corner, but we don't run one. They've already got entitled to the property, and federal EPA is going to build a facility for them free of charge, and they're also going to clean up the area because it's contaminated. GRTA, I think we found them a lot for their park and ride facility up there in Dedido. So there are other agencies, and we also have you can see on the map, there's a cultural center reserved for this lot. We already have a cultural agency asking where is that 20 acres because they want to do something. And this may interest Commissioner Herrera here. They're looking at maybe making it a, you know how the different villages have citrus festival, Domi festival. Agad has the macro festival. But Agad also has a lot of famous singers, so they were thinking of making it a song festival, you know, rather than a food thing. Right? Because I mean, before you have Sartor's Brothers, the Sublime Girls, the Sunset Girl, Jesse Bias, you know, so there's a lot of things. So that was the concept. And that's what I mean. And as you get to the part of the agenda for the other culture center, I'll show you that's a different concept here and the one that they're looking at. Also in that map, you have 35 acres for GBOE Elementary School. Recently, DOE has looked at their population spread, and they don't think that they'll be needing elementary school down there in Honda. But again, that's something that we have to get officially from DOE. You know, we can't just say, oh yeah, they told me. And what happens if that property doesn't, is not needed for GDOE elementary school? Then I don't know, maybe legal counsel can maybe give an opinion. Where's that 25 acres going to go? And, you know, if it's not going to go to DOE. And then, as you can see again, you have the U.S. Postal Service there, and we put that in there again for just for area purposes to show that. If we are going to go through with Public Law 2218, then yeah, it all fits. But that straight road that you see there, it might not be straight. It might be a zigzag to go down. And if it is going down zigzagging, it's probably going to have to cut into your 41.21 acres. It's probably going to, but it also provides access to you and your clients there. An interesting story here, this West Santa Ana Road, for those of you that don't know this, over Santa Ana Chapel, you come in there and that road is actually a paved loop. It's actually a paved loop. But for so many years, property, power came in on one side, power came in on the other side, but they never connected the loop, you know, for that property. And there was a lady there living in the middle who named Josephina Gonzalez. And she's a diabetic client, and she was running a generator for insulin. So the legislature appropriated $30,000, and it connected that electrical loop and provided power for her. And at that time, there was only one house in that area. If you go up there today, I think there's like 20 houses because infrastructure came. I say that because as you go into this property and you provide infrastructure, you're going to get people that are interested in going there. Even though if you look at the property, you know, some people might call it badlands, wetlands, wasteland rather, not wetlands on there. But this is an example of one of the properties that the land trust has, that has, I guess, joint tenants, at least at this point in time. Until we go in and we see the property to see if it's really feasible for a school, post office, a bus satellite station in there, you know. Until we go in and see it for ourselves, we have aerial photographs and things like that, but there's nothing like going in there. So we are going to open a road in there, and by opening a road, I don't think we're going to be going in there bulldozing, not at least at this point. It's going to be a hand clearing, bush cutter like that, to see what the topography is. Sometimes when you look at topography, you see a big bush of grass or something. Hey, that looks level of it. And you go down there, that's thing about 10 feet deep.
So Director Ward, just real quick, to that point, right? So I guess my question was, do we know what the topography is if it can support these types of plans, right? But we don't know that today. And the land trust property is dead center of what's the proposed elementary school, the.
Well, it's not that center. I mean, you can exchange it with the elementary school, you know. What I'm saying is that there should have acreage for it. Does it have to be there? No.
Okay.
Is the land trust property in an area where it's fairly level and easy to develop? Probably not, just because I've been out to the property and like that. But how much of it is developable? How much of it is usable? How much of it is maybe best left to a grazing, conservation area? You don't always have to develop all your properties. You should, leave some green space and like that. And this is a good ideal area. I just want you to know that around the CHamoru land trust property, up there in the northern part where it says DPW satellite station, below that, and then going to the bus satellite station, there's an arrow to that box. Below that is actually private property. I believe it belongs to Nomura Guam Enterprises. And I think the plans are there is for a hotel. I would think so. And then below that is private property. It's a land property that was exchanged for property down in the courthouse. And then below that is a tourist property coming in from the radio station. And I say that because if you look at the map on the bottom, you see that cleared area here? That's the Southern Sports Complex that is being built by the Guam Football Association with FIFA money. So the sports complex that you see up there in Bedido, which was CHamoru land trust property at one time, this is going to be a Southern Sports Complex. Guam Football Association under Pino Sanbil got, I believe, a large amount of money from FIFA and the International Federation of Football, and they will give that money to build, and they build the government. If the government can provide the land, we'll build another sports complex like we did up there in Bedido. So that's what that thing is. And in another area there that you have is the Hogman transfer station. This belongs to Guam Solid Waste Transfer Authority. But I believe, I don't have anything official, is that at least some of the solid waste transfer station might be being phased out. I don't believe this is one of them, the same way that they did do solid waste transfer station was phased out or relocated to Harmon. But this is quite a substantial facility on there. And then in the area there that you see where it says PNDG, that white circle there, that's a 500 million gallon water tank. So you might have some water available in that area. So this area is kind of like developing, and there are other landowners there, private landowners, CHamoru Land Trust, Leslie's Cultural Center. So it's time that we look back on Public Law 2218 and say, hey, do you guys still need this? Now, Public Law 2218 has been touched. There was a time when Public Health needed land for a lab up at that Bedido. And Public Health has some land in Calapago, but it wasn't, it was a hilly land. I like that they weren't able to develop that. The legislature exchanged that land. Gave that land in Calapago, the Santa Cruz Drive, to the land trust, and Public Health received the land up in Bedido for the mosquito land that it has. So we have this issue with that in terms of opening up a road. This is not the only one. We also have a road issue, an easement issue in Itan. I don't think we have this one. Okay. So go ahead and there one more place to pass it around. This is in the Laha up in the hills. And basically what you're looking at is a land for the landless subdivision. And then several years into the land for the landless subdivision, they discovered that certain land for the landless lots were undevelopable. So land management at that time and land trust made a deal. We'll survey 88 lots. We'll actually do a mass and create 88 agricultural lots, agricultural lots. And land trust will get 44 lots. And the land for the landless program will get 44 to replace that. Now, the mayor and the mayor is working on a project to open the road up. This is the end of the, if you look at the thing here, and my apologies, Commissioner Bernali. When we get a closer look here, we see at the end here, actually these are land trust lessees. So the mayor has worked a situation out with the National Guard, where the National Guard will conduct a 2-week training session down in Iha. What is the training session? To open that road up. Yeah, they're engineering, to open the road. Therefore, letting the people there. And land management will be staking out the center line of the road so that we can get an estimate as to how much linear feet of water to get in there, or pipe to get in there, so that these people can have, Now, this is the subdivision that 88, I think that was straight. Half of it is land trust, half of it is land for the landless. But when the pipe comes in, it services everybody. When the road comes in, it services everybody, not just land trust and not just land for the landless. And as you can see from this, there's still a lot of vacant lots in there, that we're looking at. So I believe, Matt, when was that last trip? We saw the mayor, I think, yesterday. And went down with the survey supervisor. And now they're just trying to get the timing right to open that road out here. It's a beautiful area. You guys have an opportunity to go down there. Okay. Maybe while they're doing the road, to take a trip down there. Because it also has the potential of opening up other residential subdivisions. That's I think 400 lots in that one. 305 lots. So what are you looking at? 305. And imagine if you put another 305 lots in that area with working with peers and all that. For those of you up north, this is a better vicinity map of where Ica is in relationship to the village of Inarahan and that area.
Yeah, we have that.
We got that one, so you can see where the. Okay, and I promise I'll get us out before 8. Okay, yeah. Some agencies are, requesting properties for their various programs. Some are reviewing their needs, like DOE in specific areas. And some are saying that what they got under Public Law 2218 is inadequate. The topography is not good for whatever reason that they're looking at. Also in Public Law 2218 is, I think the very first lot is lot 10122-R18. And I believe it reserves 25 or 35 acres for the Stubu Elementary School. Got a problem with that. Number one, that area is not the Stubu Elementary School. It's when you go to Bakuru Road by the golf course, you head straight into it. If you don't turn and you go right into the woods, the jungle, that's that lot. And that lot was reserved for a Stubu Elementary School, which has already been built in Stubu, in the right place. So DOE doesn't need that anymore. And I believe Land Trust may have some less seats in there already, as well as maybe a Department of Agriculture, those original agricultural seats in that area. But that's something that the Land Trust should take out of Public Law 2218 and put it exactly here. This will legitimize the paperwork and decent, for those people out there that are there now. And then Yeah, so, so it's time under 2218, that was basically a reservation for a 10-year plan. And they were required to come back in 2 years, I believe, with a conceptual plan. And then 3 years later to come back with the financing plan for those different projects that are in there. And you've got things to be built in there like satellite bus station, highway maintenance, the fire station, police station, library, Rohan Village bypass, library, you got all sorts of things that the government agency back in 1993 reserved as the 10-year plan that they are going to do this. Now, some of them did go through, for example, lot 5412, GPA to consolidate operations, 15 acres out of a 98-acre lot. That's where they are at now in Padilla. That Gloria B. Nelson building there, that's built on that property based on this plan. So there are some success stories, but for the most part, no. And a lot of it has to do with where the actual lot was. When land management gave these properties to the land trust, really land trust was in no condition at that time to say, oh, okay, this is a good level, it's good, like that. Even Speedway Park, reserved down in Santa Rita, lot 289. It's a 620-acre parcel, and 50 acres was reserved for a Speedway Park for Parks and Recreation. I know you guys are discussing things like that. So that's public law 2218, and these are your joint tenants, right, Margarita? These 20 lots here are lots that are in public law 2218. But the CHamoru Land Trust has an interest to it. And to the commission's credit, if you look at the very far right, that you guys have developed master plans for these lots already. But we need to make sure that you're not putting a 1 acre lease in the middle of a 20-acre portion reserved for, school and like that. So that's the public law 2218, and we're actively working with your staff, especially with my peers, to clarify this out. But at some point in time, there probably has to be legislation to absolutely get the details down. Absolutely get the details down of each of these particular lots. We are looking, like I said, first at the lot 480 in Aga, and we are looking also at the EHAP, and those are relative to opening up access roads to the area so that we can see actually what we have. And you guys already have leases on there, but of course, you put them in the convenient areas. That's logical, right? Where they're accessible at least immediately.
Right.
Yeah.
And those are the natural land.
Yeah.
And the incinerators going to be here?
No, not in that lot. I just mentioned the incinerator lot. The incinerator lot, and I even hesitate to call it the incinerator lot, but the area that they're looking at is over, which is the original area that they were looking at, which is about the old workforce, lot 49. That's R1. And I just mentioned it because it was the next lot, but I can think like that. But I should have stopped right about that.
That was the original proposal.
Yeah, that was the original proposal. No, I don't know. I don't know their new proposal that they put to the mayor. I don't know if it's, I would assume it would be at the same location, but I don't know the details on that. Okay. The next one I'm going to talk about is land registration, which I saw that on your agenda. You have some land registration. Basically, what this is, it's a status report on unregistered lands that are within government of Guam or the land CFPC. So these lots that you have here, every one of these lots is unregistered. And you have about 3,245.94 acres that are unregistered. So when it's unregistered, you've got a specific sentence in your legislation that says the commission shall not use unregistered lands, I think, or something. And we have been working with Nick actually on this, legal counsel on this since a couple of years ago. We got interrupted by a virus. But we had already started a plan to do land registration. And the strategy from your legal counsel that we proposed was that we land register a lot of these large parcels for a couple of reasons. Number one, they're relatively easy to land register because it's possible that other lots around it have been land registered. And secondly, it'll have an effect on your commercial leases. You're going to get to a certain percent of acreage leasing for commercial based on what you have in there. And this will just increase your available land inventory, if you do land registration. Now, having said that, the paperwork and the hearing and the documents preparation is the same for a small lot as a big lot. If Nick, probably would agree with me that if you're doing a land registration for a 1 acre lot versus a 100-acre lot, probably it's the same amount of paper and like that. What is maybe going to be different is the process survey, which you guys do. We don't do the land management. What we do at land management is we research the owners of the surrounding properties. And we're looking anxiously to transfer that responsibility to you guys. But still give you access over the records division, of course. And then also, Pierce has been detailed basically over to the land trust of the survey part. So we don't have a problem really initiating that land registration case. And in most of these cases, it'll probably go to the land trust. There are other unregistered lands that are claimed by the government that are not in CHamoru land trust inventories. So we, at land management, would like to kind of like concentrate on this one. We just arranged this alphabetically, but the last time I believe this was reviewed years ago, it was something like 70 lots. And I think at that time when we counted the acreage, it was like 2,000 acres. But now with much more detailed research from the land mapping people, we have identified lots that have maps for them. So if they have a land registration map, that's a big jump. Because we don't have to do the map, because it's already there. If we have to do the map, it'll probably take us a year maybe per lot to do. So we might want to take a look at the strategy and take a look at the lots. But I fully understand the concern of the land registering the largest lots. There are some lots also that have not been registered, and I don't understand why. There are 4 lots or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lots right across the Talapoco fire station. They're all residential lots. People were on those properties of the land use permit and then subsequently of the land was lease. But these are unregistered lots. And these are the small lots. That's why I kind of mentioned that, that there is it. Also, I think the one that we're right in the middle of is lot 286 PD. And Nick's working with that. Our survey division is working with the Navy. The Navy has some concerns on it. There is also some issue with Department of Agriculture. They're running that fossil reservoir, which is a nice little pond in the back there. It's got a dock. You can go fishing in there when you're allowed to. And then it's right next door to the veteran cemetery. But that's the one that we're looking at. More importantly, though, in lot 286 PD, you have CHamoru Land Trust lessees or CHamoru Land Trust applicants that are on the verge of applying and getting VA, I believe, and SBA loans. But because the property is unregistered, it's holding it back, their loans on it. I believe they may have been approved other than for the land issue. So that's why 286 was really important, other than it being a big house. Then you have the 6 lots in Talapoco, 472 in Agad, 10148 Dededo, 523, the rest of 7099, 10162 Dededo. I'll just read out those numbers, but those are large lots. And the large lots. We would like to register also prioritize some of the lots that are also being occupied by other agencies. For example, in Georgia, the DPW satellite bus station, that's on an unregistered lot that is also on the CHamoru Land Trust inventory. We'd like to land register that lot and cut out the piece for the bus station and go on retain the other portion. We also have 70 acres in digital that was reserved for land management to conduct land exchanges. However, within that property, I believe we have maybe about 15 to 20 CHamoru Land Trust applicants. We certainly don't want to kick them out, but we want to legitimize their stay in there. But we also would like some replacement land to do land exchanges, because that's the only lot that was set by public law for land exchanges. And that was very, very easy because it was already surveyed, time to time, government of Guam needs land to conduct land exchanges. Maybe the government took portions of private property for a road, for a school, for something like that. And the people, by and large, are willing to do land exchanges, but a lot of times they want it in the same area. And right now, they do it, for that. So we'd like to look around the area and see what the government lands may be available, unregistered lands that may be available for the government to conduct land exchanges when possible.
And Director Bora, you said that's 70 acres
Which one?
for the land exchange?
I believe it's 70, right? What's the track number? It's the one right around the coral pit. 70 acres was reserved for a land exchange. It's in the same track where Familia Store is.
Yeah.
Familia Store was a product of a land exchange. The family that owned that, I believe, not owned that, but the family that owned the Salukla pool, the water pool, natural, the salt water pool down in Alahan, when it was taken by public Parks and Rec for the pool, or the public park. They were given a land exchange, but they didn't want, the family was from Alahan, they didn't want land in Digital, especially in that area. So what they did, it was the only land available. So they went ahead and accepted the land exchange and promptly sold, made sure that there was nothing in the law that precluded them from selling the property. They turned right around and sold the property to the owner now of Familia Market. They took that money and they bought land down in Malaysia, where they wanted to be. So we have that problem of we're doing land exchanges, people want, we have land needs in Santa Rita and Jomia, and especially down south, because down south, the lands for the roads were not condemned from Route 70, that intersection there, all the way down to Lahan, Malolo, up to Aga, that southern route there. It was never really condemned on that. So these are properties that are in the land trust. They're unregistered. Some of them have maps already. Some of them no maps. Just remember that if you select a lot for registration and there's no map on it, you're looking at about a year before any action is taken, or maybe more, because the land management survey crew, we only have one survey crew, and we have other projects for for the administration, for the and look at the governor's office. So we have our own list also across the, unless you do contract it out, unless you outsource it out, which has been done. Yeah, which has been done.
So I know that between Joey and Alfred, there has been some prioritization for some of the lands to be registered, right? So, well, at least now we have, I figured there was an asterisk of some sort, so at least we have this now to ensure that we can tick off, right, what our priorities are. But just kind of circling back to these 70 acres for land exchange, we do have some more land trusts that sees there.
Yep. And they came in as a preoccupier from the land use permit program, the rental program. They were there. They passed the law for that area, 70 acres. Land management surveyed it out, and oops, there's a land use permit. Yeah, they weren't placed in there, in spite of the law, but they were there when the subdivision was cut out, when the 70 acres was cut out, according to public law 2218. just a situation we have to, and again, we're not looking at evicting anybody, but we're looking at working out and getting, at least recovering the acreage that was lost in there from that program, you know, to be able to complete our program, right?
Understood.
The land is there.
Pierce, do we know how many off the bat?
Not at the back one. I know.
Thank you. Okay, and then I think you had one more, correct?
I have one more, which is the Digital Cultural Center. This one's a little bit more problematic. And Digital Cultural Center was really created by Public Law 25-47. And what that really did was when the lands, when the federal lands, the condemned lands in the Harmon Cliff land were being returned to the original landowner through the Guam, there were some nonprofit organizations that were out there. I believe the DFW was there, and there were some, the Palau Amai was out there, and I believe other nonprofit organizations, including several cultural clubs on there that, you know, they're like Great Heart, but it's a cultural club that they had out there in the Harmon Cliff land. So the legislature passed a law, Public Law 25-47, creating a cultural center. And what you see in the color is the actual cultural center. This is about 20 acres. It's a 20-acre cultural center. And we divided it up into, I believe, these half-acre lots or something like that. But in any event, you see that one big lot there in the middle, that's kind of like the area where, you know, common area, stage maybe, or put over the restaurant there or something like that. As you can see on the bottom here, the surrounding areas and the colored areas here, the subdivision, there's already some structures on it. The bottom left-hand corner there is two white buildings. That's the Palau Amai. They have it there. They got that through, you know. There are other groups that are doing in there. The Korean group, Australian group, and Turkish group, and then you also have Philippine groups. However, if you look up there in that area, the red area there, you see those structures, 1, 2, 3, 4, the Mindoro, Bicol, Aklan, and the United Filipino Family Association. Those are land trust lessees, land trust occupants who think they are. I don't know if they're applicants on them, you know. And as you can see, the structures are substantial. You know, they're not parks and like that. These are, you know, houses like that. And we believe that these are land trusts, either lessees or occupants, or qualified for the land trust occupant.
So we were able, one is actually a CHamoru land trust lessee, and one is an applicant. We were able to verify those two individuals. There's three. So one is I think holding a lease, sales lease, and the other person is just he's an applicant.
In any event, you know, land trust clients and so we are looking at that one, and I don't really know how we'll solve that situation. You know, they're going to be in the middle of a cultural center, not like the other cultural center that, you know, I was talking about earlier. This is a different concept of a cultural center. We are land management, we certainly don't want to relocate them. They're substantial. You might want to have your land agents go out and do the usual report on power, water, you know, what do they got in there.
Yeah.
That's substantial, but we'd like to work it out with the land trust as to how we can, you know.
Well, I think the first thing is, how did they get there? How did they get issued this property, et cetera, et cetera, right? So I'm gonna just task this ID, you can hear me, to work with either Director Borja or his team to figure out, you know, who, what, where, when, why. And, you know, it may take a little longer than next month's meeting, but well, I'm pretty sure it will. Just if we can start getting that together.
Oh, I think these guys can make next one.
So I mean, I think, you know, just from, you know, the potential issues, when it's designated for, why, you know, how do they get there, et cetera. So Ms. Eileen, could you just acknowledge, if you can hear me, you can help take that on to begin the research.
And then the last issue, Mr. Chairman, and I'll circle back to see if there's any other questions that I'll come after this. But the last issue I want to bring up is Mrs. Marcia Itutu, who's now deceased, has been a lessee with the CHamoru Land Trust Commission since June 2002. Within a portion of track 104 Umatic. Now, track 104 Umatic is a land for the landless lot. It's under the Land Department of Land Management. She is a December 2nd, 1995 applicant. So she applied the very first day and stated on that application that she was a preoccupier on this Umatic property. Ms. Algon, along with her husband and that bank daughter and son-in-law, are the main borrowers on the current SBA loan, which was approved by the CLTC on April 30, 2003 to the home situated on the property. So the land trust gave the lease, approved an SBA loan on the land for the landless lot. The family of Ms. Agun have come in and are requesting to take over her lease. Ms. Agun again, Marcia Agun deceased. And upon further research and inspection, CLTC has validated that Ms. Agun and family are still occupying the property. However, they cannot do an addendum reflecting the successor's name until such time that the property is transferred into the land trust inventory until you guys own it. And in a request from a meeting that we had with the director, Angela Macho, land trust is requesting that Block 4, Block 2, Track 104 be transferred to the land trust. And based on the affidavit of administrative transfer, the property is still under the land for the landless inventory. However, in the interest of solving this issue, I will go ahead and transfer the property to the land trust so that they can legitimize their lease on it. And keeping in mind, the good faith that we also have problems with our inventory, not just land trust. So we're looking to kind of like solve these things.
So just, sorry, just to be clear, what I heard is that this current property is part of the land for the landless
And the purpose,
inventory, but has not been transferred over to COTC, but the lessees or
The
the other
COTC.
family, yeah, has a lease.
a CLTC lease on it already. Okay. Years ago,
Right.
not recently.
Correct. I mean, this stems back to 2003.
Lease then, yeah, when they got a SBA loan from.
Okay, so I guess we do it in parts, right? It's getting the land put into our inventory, and it's going to follow the normal process with the land agent to make sure that we can.
This is the document that will, allow the administrative transfer to you guys, and then I would assume that it would remain with something that you are.
Yeah, well, I, high level, yes, we definitely want to make sure that everything is, has been handled and administered properly.
Because we could probably do it one of two ways. We could probably give her the lot under the land for the landless program, where she would probably have to pay 2,500 plus interest.
Right.
Or she can continue the 99-year land trust lease at $1 rate.
Okay, so we'll get an update from Angie. Angie, you can take this one on, and we'll get an update in the next meeting,
Okay.
right, on the full specs and how we're gonna process. Again, not that I'm, we're not looking to displace anybody, but I
Oh,
also
of
want
course
to
not, yeah.
understand who, what, where, when, why. How did she get a lease under this, and that's not in the inventory, right? If it's just a matter of transferring it into the inventory, then that's fine. But what else is around her? Are there other lands of the land that's?
Yes, it's a track. There are other
tracks. Okay, I figured the track.
This is the track, right? If you're going from Umatic to up the hill and you're at the bridge, and the base on your right, the minute you pass the bridge, there's a left hand there, all those lots into that track 104.
Okay, so we'll leave that with you, and you report back to us in our. Yeah. Working with
So,
it.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. That concludes. I just want to recap, the meeting. I heard you come down and visit you guys for the same building. But, take a look as a commission, the public law 2218 lots in there. And also note that we will begin to open up a road in block 480 and in the EHA subdivision. land registration. You guys look it over and decide what the priority. I would like to request a priority of those that have maps already and those that may not be too complicated in terms of how many people are around them. You know, that, in one of these lots, there may be 5 lot owners around them. It should be easy service. In some of these lots, you may have 40 or 50 to serve. So, and you guys are the ones doing the service. So if you guys opt for that big lot with the big number of landowners, then it's all new. That's a big jump. But there are some really easy ones, and there are some that have pending issues like pending SBA loans, pending PA loans, pending land registration, acceptance that we must figure out. And thirdly, land management. We do need some properties that for land exchanges, and you guys have some clients on our property, so to speak. That we all belong as joint tenants, but we want to legitimize your occupancy as well as our.
Okay,
And I think that's it. Cultural center. You guys know everything about cultural center. Dave here from Agat and.
So just real quick, Mr. Board, again, first off, thank you for helping us through this, working with Angie, bringing some additional visibility. Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Board? Okay. Commissioner Fidelio? Commissioner Fidelio is on mute. Make sure you are the opportunity. Brad, you can hear us, you're on mute, but I would. Okay. Well, Mr. Barth, if any questions from Mr. Dad, we'll.
Oh, sure. Please forward it, and I'd be more than happy to respond to it. And, let me know if you need for me to come back for another meeting to more questions or clarify some issues.
Okay.
Thank you again, Commissioners. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, Commissioners, we are towards the end of our meeting, but there is one item on the agenda that I didn't, that wasn't here. Before we award our Commissioners' comments during the meeting, we do want to make sure we have allowed for the opportunity for public comments. So I believe we may have Ms. Guerrero here. For the record, please state your name.
My name is Laura Guerrero. Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me to speak under public comments today. Primarily, I was hoping that some resolution to my case would have been presented to the board this evening. Considering the amount of reasonable time this commission has had these past 60 days. Unfortunately, this is not the case, as I was informed just last week that my case will not be heard as a result of the commission waiting for a legal response on how to proceed regarding my leave. Although we did try to schedule a meeting this week, unfortunately, neither of us were able to meet after all. However, I did previously follow up almost a month ago to meet with Lanny and Glenn sooner. Nonetheless, here I am today to inquire as to what exactly you all wanted to discuss with me. But before you answer that, I do have more concerns that I wanted to share with you. I wanted to share with you that I have already expended about $30,000 of my VA loan thus far, and without any type of resolution, it will continue to accrue interest because I was issued a cease and desist letter to stop the construction of my single family dwelling on the lot leased to me by the CHamoru address 3 years ago. Please also note that regardless of the legal response you're waiting for and or today's board decision, I have signed a promissory note with the VA entailing that my VA entitlement will be charged for non-performance of construction. So with that said, I am out $30,000 and may no longer have available VA home loan entitlements as a result. Therefore, the longer you continue to stall, the sooner my 1-year timeline contract I have with the VA will expire. Furthermore, since my last meeting with the land agent handling my case as a director early last month, Their statements of not having continuously occupied or continuously resided on the property in reference to the pre-occupier clause notated in Public Law 2338 that I was awarded a lease for. Their accusations are subsequently incorrect, among other things. Hence the reason why this commission is yet to make a decision and find it necessary instead to seek a legal response from the Attorney General's office on how they should proceed. As I try to explain to them, I have also previously mentioned many times over and over again through testimony made to both the previous board and the legislature that my great-grandfather, Tunkiko Fea, had been residing, occupying, and farming on a rented property, lot 5402, Pagat, Manila, since the 1950s. Prior to 1995, his children, grandchildren, and now great-grandchildren, more particularly since 1989, my family, to include myself, my father, who's the oldest grandson, my mother and siblings, along with numerous relatives, have resided, occupied, and farmed on the same rental property to this date. Of course, not the entire lot, but portions of lot 5402. It was not until we were issued authorizations to survey these portions of lot 5402 that it then became single and smaller lots. By the way, the particular lot in question that was awarded to me was only just authorized and surveyed in 2017. It has been a never-ending chronicle for myself and my family to reside and occupy, farm, and cultivate the properties on portions of lot 5402. Although I may not have held a bona fide residence in Manila prior to 1995, and for the particular lot I have a lease for, that does not mean I have never resided, occupied, farmed, and cultivated that very same lot before 1995. And nor have I ever abandoned and neglected it to this day. Now, to question or investigate where I've been occupying or residing after 1995 is beside the point. Furthermore, according to the compiler of Guam laws, I could not find such law nor requirement for individuals to register with the mayor's office that my family and I were residing, occupying, and farming on my great-grandfather's rented property. And there is still no such law that says individuals can't reside or occupy two places of residence. Of course, logically, only one can be recognized, but that's time for another discussion. Please allow me to remind you of Public Law 2338, section, I have here 6118, but I think you might have it as 6.4, where it says, notwithstanding the provisions of 6108 to 6114, the commission shall not serve eviction notices to individuals who presently reside and have continuously resided on CHamoru Land Trust property prior to July 12, 1995, and who qualify under the Act. Having said that, was I presently residing on CHamoru Land Trust property on September 14, 1995? And have I continuously resided in CHamoru Land Trust property prior to July 12, 1995? In response, yes, I am. If in case you're wondering, September 14, 1995 is the date in which Public Law 2338, known as the Paul Regalia Rules and Regulations, was enacted into law. So if you think about it for a minute, when the lawmakers were drafting up the rules and regs for this commission, those rules and regs were written at that very moment and during that particular time. With respect to your father, Commissioner Regalia, would that be an accurate statement? Additionally, my marriage verification only says lot 502 Tunkiko Fea, because once again, it wasn't until 2017 when the property was surveyed and given a new name as lot 19, lot 9, tract 15213. And yes, it is dated and was issued in 2009, and there is no mention of my Manila residency prior to July 12, 1995. However, and again, there is no Guam law that says we have to register with the mayor's office and that we can't reside or occupy two residences 365 days in a year. Recently, I emailed a copy of an affidavit signed and notarized by my parents regarding preoccupation of my leased property prior to July 12, 1995. Is their affidavit unsatisfactory for this commission to prove my pre-occupancy? Yet in recent news, there was a statement made by land trust staff regarding proof of eligibility that an affidavit may be acceptable. Although I understand you're still working on the details, however, the fact that it may be a viable option is interesting. So is this commission implying that my parents' affidavit is not a viable option to prove pre-occupancy, but may possibly be viable enough to prove eligibility? Is it true that individuals can have a leased agricultural property somewhere and a residence elsewhere? Even so, that these same individuals can also claim pre-occupier status on any or both of their properties. Because they can, the law says this commission shall not evict them so long as they were residing on CHamoru Land Trust properties prior to July 12, 1995. For individuals such as myself, claiming pre-occupier on a residential lot, the law does not infer that we have to declare a bona fide residency on the property, but only that we had to have resided or occupied, hence the term pre-occupier, on the property prior to July 12, 1995. And having done so, the law says this commission shall not evict them. Also, that land trust allows individuals to build a home on agricultural lots, even though they already have another in their private land. So for those with agricultural lots, of which property should they be recognized as a bona fide residence to? The law says they can build a home, but which property exactly should they recognize as their permanent or bona fide residence? From 1989 and even today, 2022, I still don't have the commission's approval to build or make improvements to my lease property. Therefore, all I could do since 1989 is occupy the property for farming, cultivation, and animal grazing. We, and I mean my family, did at one time live in a temporary house, semi-concrete, wood and tin, on that exact lot I was awarded a lease until Typhoon Omar in 1992 tore it down. After that, we built another temporary house of the same material, but this time on a lot that my father currently uses. There's a bus on the property that I have been using as storage because I moved so much. And then we also used to park trucks and cars along the easement to keep squatters from coming in and making it their own. Nowadays, you can see a lot of that happening while they wait for this commission to award them a property. So now I have to ask, if the previous board found my pre-occupier status acceptable and with substantive supporting documents, including public testimonies that were presented to them justifiably, why then is this commission's land agents, Glenn E. and Jessica Daly, persistent in recommending to this board to evict me from a CHamoru Land Trust property that I have resided, occupied, and farmed on prior to July 12, 1995? Although they have not blatantly said it out loud, the amount of effort they have invested these past 90 days in their investigation of my lease says something. The term preoccupier, as used by this commission for 27 years now, used in reference to Public Law 2338, refers to a place of occupancy prior to July 12, 1995. For the staff and acting administrator to assert that I do not qualify as a preoccupier because I have not continuously resided on the property after or since 1995, and for Attorney Tom to declare that because my marriage verification does not specify a date of 1995, that I do not qualify as a preoccupier, are incorrect and invalid allegations. So let us not circumvent around the definition of continuous occupation, because the law, as it is written, does not include the words after or since, nor does it mention that a marriage certification is required to prove pre-occupancy. Perhaps it is written elsewhere, but certainly not written in the law. Whereas in some of the rules notated in Public Law 2338, it is clearly written, such as rules for proving eligibility and lessor's performance and conditional leases. For example, a birth certificate to prove eligibility or a pre-approval letter from a financial institution. Finally, after reviewing and listening to many board meeting minutes and audio recordings of board meetings, I decided to research other source documents and realized that the Commission's financial audits are definitely a great resource. For fiscal year 2019, your financial audit reported, more specifically, the management letter section I, control deficiencies under residential lease. A certain lease was transferred to a current listed lessee effective June 14, 2019. However, we noted that the previous lessee held the lease for less than 7 years as required by commission rules. Furthermore, we noted that the lessee is affiliated with a current commission employee. Then again, in the management letter for the commission audits fiscal year 2020 and 2021, the same control deficiency is repeated, whereas this issue is not yet been resolved as of the end of fiscal year 2021. So here this commission is now telling me that my lease is flawed, but cannot correct the deficiencies of leases issued to constituents who are affiliated with employees. Isn't this a double standard that management and this board should address? Yet it seems like the importance of correcting deficiencies from within the commission is far less than trying to correct the lease awarded to me by the previous board. And this goes without saying that in the commission's response to my FOIA request regarding copies of applications and active leases of employees and commissioners, past and present, to include their parents and children, I found leases issued to employees for properties other than what is stated in their land use permits, yet claiming to be pre-occupiers of those properties. With your permission and for the record, I would like to ask at this time, Mr. or Commissioner Herrera, for a response. You don't have to if you don't want to, but I have to ask you a question. Commissioner Herrera, do you currently own private land? And do you currently have an active lease for agricultural property of 2 or 15 acres active? And did you claim yourself as a pre-occupier to that?
I have private land. I don't have a lease.
I just wanted to ask because,
Did you understand the
yeah,
answer?
I understood. Yeah, I apologize.
Can you repeat it?
The question was, do you currently own private land? And do you currently have an active lease for agriculture?
And what was the answer?
And you said you have private land, but you don't have a lease.
Correct.
Yes. I just wanted, I'm only asking because in response to my FOIA request, it wasn't clear. So I just wanted to ask you.
You can see my file.
Yeah, I'm not
It's a
I'm not
public file.
investigating anything. I just wanted to ask because it wasn't clear to me.
Okay, and they must have given you information that I
They-
do have a lease.
No. I just saw your application, but I couldn't find your lease, so I wasn't sure
Right,
what
so
was
I don't
going
have
on.
one.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to ask because it wasn't, I didn't understand the FOIA, so I wanted to make sure I understood it. And that's why I asked.
Any other question?
In keeping with the commission's response to my FOIA request in response to terminated leases since 1995, not including the land use permits, I counted 33 leases were voluntarily terminated or relinquished. 20 of them, however, were reissued, including myself. And again, this is terminated leases since 1995. A few of those constituents were familiar to me, considering that we were affected by the transfer and switch, which was deemed null and void by the previous AG. What I did find interesting, however, is that an employee's child had applied as recent as 2016 and was issued a lease as a result of a transfer and switch, except the lease had not yet been terminated, or at least the name does not appear in the list of terminated leases. Perhaps the details are still being worked out. And a question to Attorney Tom. In 2019, during the meeting when my request for residential lease and pre-occupier status was approved by the board, you then advised in reference to my 2017 lease, which was null and voided, for the board to then create a new lease for my current lease dated 2019. Are you now admitting that you were wrong in advising the board to create a new lease and that it was a mistake for the board to have approved my lease?
Is that something you want to discuss at this hearing? Because here's the problem. We have a government claim that you filed on this. We have construction that you started without legal permission from the board. We have a falsification of Department of Public Works that you're the owner of the land on your application when you're in fact just the lessee. The question on your preoccupier status was something that kind of slipped past us the first time. You had a verification from the mayor that you occupied in 2006, but that wasn't presented to us at the hearing. We were just told that there was a mayor's verification. In the past, that referred to someone who had been occupying since 1995. In this case, you said there was a bus there for storage since Omar. To me, that's not residing on the land since 1995.
That's not what I said.
So let me just ask for me to interrupt for a minute.
Mhm.
I know Ms. Guerrero, sorry, that this was a lot of the clarification, right? Hence why we don't have a resolution. They can't bring anything to the board if there's nothing for us to decide at this point. The questions that Attorney Tom has brought up are what was to be discussed with you and worked through with you in the appointment or the meeting that they wanted to set up with you. So again, if I appreciate your time and I appreciate your diligence in everything that you have from your letters and you know, again, a lot of this too for us, right? We don't have all that to review as the commissioners in front of us. That's what our land agents are there to help steward the process for our constituents, along with our attorney and with the director, right? But again, I want to be clear that, you know, these are sort of things that we wanted, our team wanted to discuss with you that was in addition to. And I know it's been 60 days, right? We're on the May meeting and I believe we met with you in our March meeting, right? So of course, the lag between whatever the case may have been and getting you to meet with us in March, it's still I'm not trying to say that it's such a short period of time, but it seems that it's just it's a little bit more complex than maybe another piece that's maybe similar or not, right? But what I want to be respectful and respectfully ask for you is, this is why we wanted this meeting, right? For you guys, for our attorney, with you to go through and be able to answer, because some of the questions that you asked, I was like, those are great questions, right? But I wouldn't be able to answer that. We need to have, a session to be able to do that.
I understand, but Mr. Chubb mentioned something, it's like, my original application was in 2006. And at the time, I indicated that I wasn't occupying.
Right.
And then I updated, I submitted a status change report in 2010.
Right.
And before that, I had a mayor's verification in 2009 saying that I was occupying property.
Right.
Now,
not sorry, not to cut you off, but getting through that whole chronology and mapping it out, I think it's going to be helpful. And we don't have a whiteboard, again, not to be corny, but we don't have a whiteboard to mark all these down to kind of make sure that it jives with the files.
right, but you have the files, everything you need to know is in my file.
But you have questions.
Well,
additional
my question to Mr. Trump is, the board knew that I had a mayor's verification in 2009. That was presented to them. It was also presented to them a status update change report in 2010, saying that I changed my my application from no to yes, that I'm living or farming on government land.
So Ms. Brown, again, not to interrupt you, but we don't have that in front of us. We're not going to be able to make any of those decisions. We need to have that meeting, right, with the director, the manager, and attorney top to map all this out and make sure that when it comes to the board, that it's going to, and if it, at the end of the day, and if you think it was a waste of time, but we decided that everything stands, and that's the case. But with things that come up that are questioned, that don't appear to be right, it is the responsibility, to your point, when you say the integrity of the trust, it's our responsibility to question these things and not to belabor it. But if at any point in time it's a question that we need to bring up or decide or disclosure, right, that it wasn't all disclosed, I mean, you agree that we should address this.
Right.
Right? So, one second, Dr.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
so since our meeting in May, I'm sorry, March 2022, I would like to let the board know that there was also a government planning leave, as well as 6 FOIA requests, I believe 2 of which were amended. So maybe a total of 4 responses that we've been addressing.
Right,
So
in a timely manner. I want to make sure that's clear. Was it in a timely manner?
was it in a timely manner?
Yeah, it's fine. It was
Because I only
Well, the
signed,
fir- the
I only
first-
signed one because Miss.
Well, the first one required an an extension was requested, but they were able to meet the.
Right. So, I'm sorry, Ms. Monica.
Nonetheless, I would like to request that we just proceed with caution because of the claim as well. So
I was about to ask, you did mention you went to the AG and where does that stand right now?
We don't know.
So
Yeah,
so
no,
that's,
We don't know, the commission doesn't know.
The government claim is,
it's
Already,
related
yeah,
to,
yeah.
it's
It
related
could be
to-
related. However, again, I ask that, unfortunately, we can't resolve anything. And I appreciate, again, the time that you and effort you put in on all of this, and it's not discounted, right? There's a lot of things that, the questions that you ask, right? It's gonna help figure this out and help us figure it out. But I just want to be respectful to you that unfortunately, we can't make that decision, or we can't make a decision today. And the reason for that meeting was to help through the situation, to address the concerns, address the questions. With Attorney Kaufman, was there, we worked. And so again, the questions that came up that may negate this whole thing. I mean, that's why some of these, that's why it was there, because we want to make sure that, time and time again, we have to come back to the drawing board, and we can never, it just continues to drag, and that's what we're trying to do is clean it up. And if this is part of cleaning it up, I asked you afford us that time, because it does seem pretty complex. And if time is not of the essence because of the time that's ticking for the vehicle, right? Then we need to have that meeting to further decide on what's the next steps. And if that's not, let's make a date or time now, and let's hold to it. Understandably, and that we're gonna have to also err to that caution of the claim that's been made. But we'll try to make sure that it doesn't continue to belabor the issue, and we want to come to resolution. Ms. Guerrero, we are not dragging our feet to not come to resolution. I hope you understand that.
Well,
We are not involved in the process. We leave it to the land agent, our attorney, the director. We've got others involved, because I want to map this out. I want to help you as much as you have done the diligence in laying some of these out. So we just pass it to Commissioner Herrera.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask Mr. Attorney about the application, the Public Works application, when you mentioned that Mrs. Lorette here identified that the property was her private property.
So
Just to be
yeah, to
clear,
be clear, I mean, it was a
because there's only two boxes there, right?
correct land
Public,
management,
Right,
yeah,
or
so,
private.
right, so. Yes, I think that's, whatever was in the application that we saw in our
Yes,
packet.
just to be clear, and then there's 7 line agencies.
Yes,
Yeah, it starts with DPW, land management,
Oh, yeah.
right?
yes.
So when I heard your case, which, probably you're saying part of this group, but I went to DPW, I got a copy of the permitting process. I took that permitting process, right? And I went to the agency that prints out the process. And I asked the agency, there's a problem with one of the clients, and there's 2 boxes here. I needed to put a 3rd box just so that it's a fail-safe system that when the client's being asked, is this property yours, private, public, or land trust? So I have the printing agency put land trust there. That's number 1. Number 2, since it went to land management, right? It was for zoning. But the first line of agency that you should get clearance from is CHamoru Land Trust. So I told the printing agency, the CHamoru Land Trust. That's the draft. I took it back to DPW, right? And I said, okay, here's a draft that I think is a fail-safe system for any applicant. So when you come in and you had your contractor went through the process, if the contractor was taking that documentation, right, they would go first to CHamoru Land Trust. So then I was advised that we're not a compliance agency. That I understand. But my point is that when I first heard your case, I don't know you, have never seen or met you. said, you maybe want the 14,000, and have the same problem. So that document, I put 75 bucks value to print it. And they told me, you gotta go through the AAA process to do it. But that was to help you and the 14,000 people. Now, when you ask me, do I have to get some private land? I was thinking that you may be thinking I'm part of the delay process.
So, I mean, let me just-
And I'll share with you, man.
Yeah, so
I spent an hour for
I
60 days in the month
appreciate your
with the brother.
your
So
proactiveness and it kind of, I think that's another thing
that
we'll
boils my
address.
blood right now. So-
No.
What I mean,
I didn't mean
the
any.
process is boiling my blood. This process can be, can be developed where it's fail safe for clients like me.
Yeah, and I think to your point,
Because,
it brought up a very good gap, a big gap in the process, right? in determining that. But nonetheless, we're not trying to.
Well, like I mentioned during our last meeting in March, my contractor walked it through. Now, I did tell my contractor it is a CHamoru land trust property. And I don't, I can't speak for him. I can't, answer, why did you put private when it's supposed to be public? I can't do that. I did sign it so that we could walk the process through. In fact, as my contractor, he paid for that permit. So now I owe him, or it's a part of my construction contract. So he did all of that legwork. So it was no fault on my end that I was the one who ticked it, or that I walked it through. It was a misunderstanding by my contractor in terms of identifying whether the land was private or public. But it was very clear to him. In fact, even before we did all of that, we went through the VA process, and and a part of that process was identifying CHamoru Land Trust as the owner of the property. And it was a lease that I was gonna build my house on. So I just wanted, I mentioned that in our last meeting, that's what happened.
Yeah, so again, not to cut you off, but again, if we could get that meeting on the books, and the goal, right, is to resolve that, but I'm gonna leave it up to Attorney Tom and the director, right? For that meeting, right, so that we can go through it, obviously, with some air caution, right, but we'll do our best to address it. Again, again, we appreciate you coming, right? And that's why as things opened up, we will continue to make sure we have that piece. But yeah, it's pretty, again, face value, sounds complex, but again, it's the sense of if there's something that is questionable, we have to ask it, we have to bring it up, we have to analyze it, we have to go through it, we have to make sure we go backwards, forwards, up and down. Because at the end of the day, the decisions we make today is going to be the decision. For similar situations, it's going to be consistent. We have to have that same decision.
What I don't.
And
What I don't understand, I'm sorry.
and just to wrap, it's that things, and as it continues to come forward, unfortunately, that's, with Commissioner Sanchez, like, we continue to see these things. What we want to do is issue the new leases, right? Get more of those out, but not to kick anybody out or prevent them from, building their homes. And this is because it was always the intent. So again, I ask you if we can take a pause here, continue the meeting with our attorney and director, Camacho. And it's up to you. If you want the man agents there or not, you can just meet with them. And they're gonna have the file and they're lay it all out and really come to conclusion at this point. And we can manage it and handle it, because again, we have the VA loan that's quote unquote ticking, to say, right? And how many months left is
It's
Hello?
yes, and then, okay, so let me just, Commissioner Daniel. Yes, Commissioner Daniel, we can hear you now.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt, but the reasons why we have these published meetings and the agenda, we have to stick to it. And I don't know if she's on the agenda today.
Yeah, understood, but Commissioner, we did, there was a piece missing on public comments, because now we're open and we want to be respectful to that. And Ms. Guerrero's here, yeah, but we're not, there's no decisions being made. And again, I'm asking that we can pause so that you can meet with Attorney Toff and Director, Monday, if you're available, right? But again, we want to make sure we work with your schedule and vice versa. So, Commissioner, anything else?
You're talking to me?
Yes, anything else?
No, it's just, that's, the rule
Yeah,
as far as
understood.
conducting our meetings.
Yes, and then again, no decisions are being made. I invited you here because we didn't have that piece on our agenda. But I asked for if we could pause here. If you can, after the meeting, we adjourn, you can address on setting up the date and time with our attorney and Director CHamoru. Of course, making sure that, because I believe you're a teacher, right? Yeah. So, want to be respectful to that too. And then to spend the time and we'll try our best to get it resolved for our next meeting, and we're done. And
Are you going on recess?
sorry?
Are you going on recess?
No, I'm just gonna, we're at the last piece of our meeting, so I just was trying to make sure that Ms. Direct is in agreement.
You want an insight meeting with,
It's
the
to work
lawyer?
through- it's to
Yeah,
work
to
through
work
the attorney,
through-
yes,
to make it, okay,
yes, ma'am. So
understood.
could we're gonna proceed with just the final piece of the meeting, adjourn, and then make the appointment with our attorney and Ms. Camacho. And the goal is, right, to, again, in our June meeting, we can hopefully get this done.
What I don't, and I just wanted to make it very clear to the boards, what I don't understand is everything that was mentioned during the board meeting in that year was not made up, right? And based on the investigations of the agents and Mr. Toff's, interpretation, the preoccupier law, which is what was presented to me as the issue, right? Of how my case was awarded, because, they're saying that I didn't qualify. I don't qualify because my marriage verification doesn't indicate a date of 1995. And then, the land agents, claiming or asserting that I haven't continuously resided on the property. And I just wanted to point out that the law is where it refers to where I was before 1991. Anything after that is irrelevant. And that's why it's called the preoccupier clause, because it refers to where we were at before 1995. So when the board heard, right, public testimonies from my family, they saw what was in my file, the 2009 marriage verification, the status update change report, the interview report provided by the land agent. Everything was there. So when they made their decision to approve me as a preoccupier and then reissue my new lease on advice from the attorney, and that's why I asked them, if there was an issue then, why wasn't it brought up then?
So that's
Because that would have saved me the amount of time and stress that I'm going through. And another issue I have is that the commission knew about this since last year, but nobody told me whatever issue that came up. It was discovered in September of last year, right? I put in my building permit request since May, and they knew about this issue since September. The director knew about my request in August, and September 9 was the last communications I had with the land agent. And then during our March meeting, just Ms. Day mentioned and Mr. E mentioned that it was because of an issue that came up regarding how my lease was awarded. And you had asked them, you asked me, did I know about it? And I said, no. That was the very first time I heard about the issue of my lease. And I mentioned to the commission and to the court, I didn't get my loan approved by the VA until December of last year. Had I known about this issue that they were having with my lease, based on whatever they found, that would have stopped me. That would have put a hold on me finalizing my VA loan. In fact, if my lease was at risk, I would have never pursued my VA loan because my VA loan is dependent on the existence of my lease. And so when they did that to me, that's what makes me mad.
Yeah.
They did this to me, and then they turn around and they put it on me that, oh, you weren't supposed to build anyway. Oh, but I did what I was supposed to do. I made my request. I waited for your response. But I went ahead and proceeded. Yes, I did that. Yes, I did that. Right? But you're gonna punish me for doing that, but they failed. They failed me. They failed in telling me.
Yeah, so Ms.
So,
Guerrero,
you
yes.
know,
No,
again,
no, I
That's what makes,
understand.
that's what upsets me.
Yes, I
And
know,
that's why I'm here.
I
because
understand.
You had all this information. You have the board meeting minutes from that year. You know, you have the laws. I didn't know anything about the laws up until 60 days ago. And I did all my FOIA requests because I wanted to make sure I understand. I understand what's going on with the commission. I understand how did we get to this point? Why am I now a subject of criticism with my lease when it was approved 3 years ago?
So Ms. Guerrero, again, I understand, I completely understand. Again, when we hear these cases, you know, that's generally the first time we get it, when we get our packets, we can review and you know, and so, like I said, if you could afford us, right, after our meeting, after we adjourn, you can make the appointment, and the goal is, right, to get a result. And to your point, go through the chronology, go through the timeline, right? Not to have to revisit and go through that, you know, process, but I think that's the only way for us to get through this. So you can afford us that time, taking the equipment after the meeting, right? And at least it's on the books and everyone is agreeing and you're available and the team's available. And the goal is to put this at a resolution if we can. Again, I'm going to leave it up to the attorney.
No, I do want to say, I won't be here for the summer. I'm leaving. I'm so stressed out. You guys just completely frustrate me. You know, everything from the actions of the land agents and up until now, you know, I'm literally like running out of patience. I mean, my lease was approved 3 years ago. You knew about this issue since 8 months ago. You had 60 days from our last meeting to do whatever it is you needed to do.
But
I used that time too to research.
yeah, and there are things that have
I understand,
come up
I
that we
do,
had to.
I do, but, you know, it's nonetheless, you know, it's,
But may I, again, not to interrupt, but may we?
yes, we can meet, but like I said, I won't be here.
Okay, but if we can meet prior to
Yeah.
the meeting before the summer, and, you know, technology allows Zoom, right?
Yes, I would definitely,
And it will get to the point where when you're off island, we'll make sure that you're informed if it comes
That's-
before.
I just want to remind the court that I have a 1-year contract with the VA.
Yes, I know that's,
And while we're sitting here, you know, trying to figure out a decision or trying to find a resolution, the interest is already,
I understand. That's one of the things that I made very clear to Ms. Camacho, that we do have this as well in the time's ticking, and we got a result. So you could, let's move to our final piece of the agenda. You can have a seat, we'll adjourn. We'll step out and you guys can make the appointment that's convenient for you and for our attorney, Ms. Camacho, and we'll go from there. I sincerely thank you for being here. I thank you for, again, you've done a lot of work, and the questions that you pose, right? We can help address that and answer that. That's why we're here. But also, just as a reminder, right, that when questions do come up, it's our responsibility to make sure we address it. And if at the end of the day, there's a resolution, we will by all means try our best to come up to a resolution, because that's not the intent to take anything out. So if you.
Well,
And so-
I'm not looking at that point, but I'm worried.
I know,
right?
but we.
I'm
but
not, I'm
give
worried
us-
about my loan. If I
No,
lose my loan, I won't be entitled to any more VA.
I understand, and that's why, again, I know that that's top of the list and why we should continue to resolve this. Okay, so we're gonna just move to our last piece of the agenda. You can have a seat, and then we will step out and you guys can make that. Thank you, sir. Okay. All right, last item on the agenda before we adjourn, commissioners, any comments? Items that we need to address for our next meeting?
Just to recap, then I'm going to, with the 1995, work with Eileen.
Yes, please work with Eileen and Joanna. Commissioner Herrera, if you could do our commercial, you would help steward our commercial process with Joey for the site visits that's needed, and then you would report back to us with the team. I appreciate your diligence on that.
Mr. Chairman, also, I'm hoping by the next meeting, we can bring back the December meeting minutes.
Yes.
I believe that was tabled a while ago.
Oh, yeah.
And
To
we
approve.
spoke yesterday, and I'm pretty sure that we could come up with a resolution to present the minutes.
Yeah, for approval, yes.
Yeah, for approval.
The last I said was I was going to finish off the rest of it, because I didn't finish off with the Clover.
So that's the only one that's left to be approved.
Correct.
Yeah,
Right,
because we didn't.
but then I did
Pass it off.
say from this point on, if you could, Tina, to the administrative director, and then onto the agenda.
We spoke, yesterday, and I'll continue to work it out with Commissioner.
But in the meeting before that, right, I did say that
Understood.
from that point on, so in this case too.
Yeah.
So whatever you
Okay.
with Tina,
Okay, so
Again.
so then we will present it
Okay.
To the board. Next.
Is that our only outstanding minutes?
right,
That has been completed and was tabled.
Right, but it's the only outstanding one to be approved.
Yes, so April and now May has not been.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Anything else? Okay. Commissioner Rivera, Commissioner Verdalio, thank you so much. I know it's getting late out there, but I appreciate you being here with us. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Was I interrupting? Because sometimes I'm on mute.
Yeah, no, we're good. We're good. No interruptions.
No,
Thank you.
I wanted to thank Mr. Borja for presenting all that information and get all the information so the staff can work on it.
Yep, we'll get you a copy of that as well.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, the time is 4:38, and may I get a motion to adjourn?
I'd like to make the motion just to adjourn.
Thank you, Commissioner Rivera. May I get a second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Santos. Any objections?
None.
Okay, hearing none. Time is 4:38, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Yeah.